its own. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans. Another day closer to victory.
Thank you for buying something and ruining the show. Now I have to start the whole show over again because you bought something. So I guess somebody bought something. I forgot to open up a thing that I'm running over here to open real quick. I don't know if I'm making it open in time. And then I have to also, oh, it's over here. And now I got to screen share it. And where did this thing go? Oh, you don't know how difficult it is to start a thing of this quality. Boom, that's what we're talking about. You know, because of the intense action and action that we have on this show, so that I have to put this warning out at the beginning of the show. It's not just YouTube, now national policy. When a show is this good, has this much intense action and intrigue, we have to put out a disclaimer. All the little baby, old people, daytime chats were getting upset because this chat was dominating the internets or whatever. So we have to put this disclaimer up there that we're better than them or whatever. So yeah, this is the Daily Gun Show. We come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern. The thing is, there's no other shows at midnight because they can't hang. They're all asleep by now. They're sleeping in big beds of their cash that they earned all day. And we stay up at night. We're the honest, hardworking people that have 2 or 3 jobs, are working on their 2nd or 3rd jobs. And we talk about guns. So let me close out all of this business now that I've got the legal obligations out of the way. And we're on episode, I don't even know. I don't think they have numbers that go this high. But we're definitely the longest running, most active show on the internet. And that's about guns. And we've changed the format a little bit. There we go. And we throw a link out there because this is conversation about guns. This is the evolution of the conversation about guns. So you can be part of that. You are part of that. If you're here, you are part of it. You don't even realize it maybe, but you got the power to use whatever appendages you feel like to wiggle on, do whatever you got to do to your phone or your computer there. And that'll make the magic of binary digits happen. And then stuff will type on the screen. We'll be able to read it using languages. We'll say stuff into a microphone. It takes a bunch of sound waves that wiggle, turns them into digits, wings them across the tubes that Al Gore made. And we have discussions about guns at the end of all that. So if you want to be part of it, hang out. If you don't, leave because we don't want you here. This is only for people that talk about guns that are super 2A, like Mystic, super 2A. Guns Barbecue, super 2A. Nobody else is here, so nobody else is super 2A. I'm in the middle of doing stuff, so this could be the shortest show ever since nobody's saying anything. Is this even live? I see my wiggles. Usually I can tell if I'm live because of my wiggles, and I got wiggles. So I'll chat here for a minute or two. But here's the deal. Now I start getting mopey. I don't got no script. I'm here to amuse you, so jump in, be part of this conversation, or it ends. It ends right here and now. I'm going to close the whole damn thing down. We'll never have another show again. Somebody talks about guns right now. Oh, I guess that's it. End of the Daily Gun Show right here. Put up some communist music here. End it under communism. Here we go. Oh, wait, no, Clover jumped in, so I guess we don't have to end the show completely. And Barbecue jumped in, so I guess we'll keep it going for at least a little while.
Well, you said you needed some mediocre 2A shills. That's what I heard anyway. That's the message I heard.
Oh, I'll take whatever I can get at this point. I'll take whatever 2A crumbs come along, whatever 2A tumbleweeds grow through. We'll take them.
Goodness.
All right, well, so I'm over here working, but I figured out it was the time to get on the show. 10 o'clock's a weird time for me for whatever reason. This is sort of like, I don't know, it's just a weird time for me. I'm either in the middle of a project, where 9 o'clock for some reason, I always seem to be at the break between, so it's a little easier. Anyway, because the chime changes for me over here, so I'm still dealing with that. Anyhow, I was about to open up if I can find the damn thing, the YouTube version of the whole thing. Time to get the show. And did you not mute more and have more noises going on? Be trying to ruin my show. I've got a whole bunch of notes over here from stuff I've been watching all day. I think it was just today. See if anybody's watched any of this stuff. We had Charlie, had Teddy Daniels on. Dude, you're doing it again. Mute. Not at work this show. I have a top quality show over here. And there's background noise. Jay in here and teach you a lesson. All right, so Riding Shotgun with Charlie had this guy named Teddy Daniels on today. Listen to that one. We had the Daily Bullet, Second Amendment Foundation pays this guy to do a show every day, except he records it and then pushes him out once a day. Kenn Blanchard was on. Turns out he was a podcaster from back in the day. Then we got Staging an Emergency Cell Phone. That was a Pincus video that got recommended to me out of nowhere, like 2 years old or something, maybe even older. I've been getting a bunch of Pincus stuff. I think because I watched one. Of course, the logarithm's trying to please me. So now it thinks I like old Pincus videos. So it's trying to shove me old Pincus videos. Anyway, I saw that one. I figured there's lots of ways to talk about that. I don't know if anybody else watched the Starship, which is the name Elon Musk's new airplane Starship thing. I think the idea is that it's a re-entry. It's like it goes into space, re-enters and lands like a freaking Bugs Bunny cartoon, like literally, like you know how they land the same way they take off. That's how they're doing it,
Right.
and it's like go to England and stuff really fast, like go around the planet and come back down faster than the Concorde. I think is what they're talking about, and also payloads and stuff like. So it looked like a crazy cartoon 50s sci-fi movie ship. Anyway, I watched that for probably. I've been working so like 4 or 5 hours. I think it would seem like a long time. Just in the background as I was watching other stuff because it wasn't really a launch as much as a test flight. And they kind of expected it's about 50-50 chance it might blow up or something because they're really just collecting data from it. It's a, evolution of a design or something. Mm-hmm. And they have a series of them, I guess, scheduled. And they're planning on having like the fourth one of them be the one that, uses all the data that they collect. So if this one would have worked, it would have been an amazing, like, coincidence. Like it wasn't designed to fail, but it really wouldn't have necessarily have been a happenstance that they had all the adjustments right or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was just interesting to listen. It was very much. Well, first I should ask, anybody watch it, listen to it?
I seen it on the feed, but I didn't. I was gonna just make a general comment that dude is an interesting individual.
Oh yeah, I mean he wasn't on it. It was basically NASA, but it was NASA's like online magazine or some version of their PR, right? Like it's called NASA Online or something, or NASA Magazine or something.
Right.
So it's basically like 6 dudes, I think, maybe a couple of chicks in there that were working as NASA. I'm pretty sure they're NASA employees, but this is a private thing. So they're just covering it for NASA, sort of. Mm-hmm. But it was interesting because they were doing some stuff. They had a robot camera. They had basically their describing their how they facilitated the coverage. They had a camera from 6 miles away that was in a hotel on a robotic system, and everything is designed so that this was also taking place. This was being launched like right by Matt, Never Enough Ammo, way down in Brownsville, Texas. So on Elon Musk's private island or some shit. He has a private island, a hollowed out volcano or some shit where he launches his space shuttles from. And so they're just watching it. One of the cameras was 6 miles away. The other one was a robot within the blast zone that they had to leave. Like they couldn't have humans in there in case something blew up or whatever, because it's a big rocket, I guess. And then there was 2 manned cameras or crewed cameras. So they basically could have one person come in, set up these remote cameras, and then they were hooked up with cell towers. Anyway, it was kind of neat because they were talking about the tech. And it was so much like listening to one of our chats, except take out all the guns and any of the fear. And it was just the good times and farting around. Maybe a little bit of food, but not quite so many tangents because they were getting paid to talk about the thing. And there were stuff happening. Like they talk about the thing was freezing and that's an indication that fuel's going in, or a crane is moving towards it or away from it. And that's an indication that there's 40 minutes left. Right. It was really interesting just listening to people who totally knew what was going on, but were kind of having a good time because it wasn't like all on the line. It was sort of a routine thing. Anyway, super fun, super fascinating to listen to. How many people do you think were watching it live with me?
Oh Lord,
All day.
hundreds, over 100,000, easily.
Yeah, way over 100,000. They said normally they get 40,000 for the launches lately, but this one was up to 100,000. So I don't know if it's because YouTube was pushing it or what, but I mean, I got it pushed a lot, but I was watching it all day. So they probably think I'm in love with Elon Musk's, spaceships
Right.
now. And then the last thing I watched right before this was the Virginia Citizens Defense League went live talking about like planning their, they call it the, how do they call it? Lobby day. The thing that they do basically at the same time as SHOT Show. So everybody got to virtue signal, oh, I didn't go to SHOT Show because I was in Virginia. But, it's a Virginia thing. And I don't know, I think you guys barbecue, I know, but I think Clover's even been in chats with these opinions, let's put it that way, that people say that Virginia was a failure, that somehow the rally in Virginia was not a success somehow. Anyway, so they're planning that, and that was super interesting. Anyway, so I'll shut up. That's some of the stuff I had. What I've been doing is using the description of the video. I'll set the video up in the morning and then, or sometime earlier in the day, and then use the video as a sort of notes of what I've been watching as I'm working here. Mm-hmm. And that way we have something to chat about if you want. Otherwise, we can chat on anything really.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea. I need to do that more often, probably.
I'm thinking it's also a nice diary because then it helps kind of keep track of what we were talking about, but also plugs, right? I want to keep even though I'm not a big fan of what they're doing, I'm a big fan of the Second Amendment Foundation. So I definitely want to link to their stuff. Virginia Citizens Defense League, man, like I say, that impressed the shit out of me. They basically had 4 people on the screen. They were talking about what they can do and just all kinds of stuff like facilitating, like, hey, if you're coming from 2 days away, let's figure out where to get some hubs so that people can start to carpool, so that like if you're 2 days away, everybody gets to a spot that's a day away, hooks up, leaves their cars and carpools in, or they're doing this like rally train since they have to kind of comply with the bullshit. They're going to drive through, or there's some sort of a drive rally bullshit. So, they're coordinating all that. But I mean, we've been around for a while. They did as much coordination and paying attention to not farting around and not being boring. I'd say one of the best. It wasn't professional or perfect or nothing by any means, but it was one of the best examples of an organization just using the damn internet and this whole live thing for what it's for. Unfortunately, it was all on Facebook. There was only like 30 of us on YouTube, but 100 something on Facebook, and that's who they were predominantly talking to. But they were organizing it. They were making it happen. They were answering questions. There was 4 of them, the movers and shakers that could address things. It was great. It was like watching. It was like being at a real organization's, what would you call it, like a meeting where they would organizational meeting, like where they're setting up something like that. And the movers and shakers are going to be there. The people that really care are going to be in the audience. They're for the most part going to shut up and just watch. But then every once in a while, if something's important, somebody from the audience might climb in and say, hey, what about, something you're not thinking about? And they'll be like, okay, great, thanks. Or, no, wait, we're not worried about that because of this. So it was a really, really good, what's the word? Like just example of a positive use of this tech. Of course, then I went over to Night Strike's chat and they're like, hey, what do we go on? What do you guys want? Any topics? Send us some topics. So I'm like, here's a topic. Nobody's watching this. What do you guys think? And then they're like, it barely wasn't a success last year, so why should we pay any attention to it now? What gun should we buy? Let's buy a Taurus over at Keltec. Bunch of people that only owned one Taurus and never owned a Keltec. How many Keltecs are no?
I don't like them. I do own them,
Okay.
but I don't like them. But enough of that.
But anybody listen to Charlie with that Teddy Daniels guy? I never heard of him before.
Oh yeah, but he's going to be a hard one to forget, particularly if you held on through the whole thing and listened to the harrowing story of him almost losing his life in that firefight. That was just, I mean, I've heard a lot of stories from guys that were in Saudi and way back when that was popping off. But wow, I try to stay not away from, but more than simply respectful when guys talk like that. I just can't relate to it. And he was just being, so casual as he relayed the story. And I was right there with Charlie, like, wow. So, yeah, never having served, I had no way to relate. And it was great to hear him talk. Also, the fact that, the dude decided to reform himself, after a fashion at age 35. Identified that he didn't want to have regrets, and his grandpa, set him on the track to go ahead and double back on going full time in the service. So yeah, mad props to that guy. He was cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and catch that one. I didn't get a notification for it today.
You ever heard of this guy, Clover? So I don't remember why he was even on.
No, I haven't heard of. I'm not aware of who you're talking about.
Okay, because this is the description that Charlie has on his video here.
Uh-huh.
It says that Teddy Daniels, decorated combat vet, business entrepreneur, retired police officer, U.S. congressional candidate. That's why he's on. So he was at the Rod of Freedom Festival. I'm just kind of paraphrasing now the paragraphs that Charlie wrote there. Charlie did I'm going to screen share because this is what it's all about, right? Is this Monday? Oh crap, it's Monday. So, right? Yeah. So this is
No, today's Tuesday.
We're Tuesday. We're Tuesday here.
How can it be Tuesday?
Because yesterday was Monday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. It's 2A Tuesday.
What? It's.
Oh, you know why? Because I pulled an all-nighter before I went to that damn show, and I probably just am all messed up. Yeah, we had a show yesterday. I'm just all screwed up sleeping. Okay, I'm back today. Anyway, I've been working all day, so I'm just not paying attention to the date. But anyhow, so how was I looking at the date for anyway? Charlie said, Charlie was at this Freedom Festival or the Rod of Iron Freedom Festival, that thing in Pennsylvania, and he, I guess, took the opportunity to ride with people there. And this guy's a U.S. congressional candidate, and I guess that's why he had him on. I'm trying to think, because he wasn't like a trainer or nothing. He just had he was a storyteller. He had, well, technically, for some reason, I was glitching. If you would have bet me $20, I would have said it was Monday, but I wasn't thinking. It's because I didn't watch nothing except for Night Strike. I guess Night Strike's on Tuesday. Anyway, so this is interesting. He has. I was basically opening this up to screen share to say that Charlie did an excellent job, not only of interviewing and coming up with a great topic for a project, but putting a useful description in here. So he starts out with riding shotgun with Charlie, big deal, but he puts his show number there. That's handy. The guy's name, and then basically whatever you might want to know. And this, like, Charlie took the time to actually write this. It's not like copy and pasted like so many of us do. We'll copy and paste stuff from the guy's bio that might be on his website or on some sort of byline somewhere. And it's okay, but it ain't ideal. It's always better to write something unique about whatever you're doing so that your stuff is unique on the web. But anyway, he did a great job of paraphrasing what they talked about and stuff. And then this part's pretty cool. Favorite quotes from the article. That's pretty awesome. And then he's got links to his website and his Facebook and this other thing, I guess one of his projects. And then all the Charlie stuff. So, yeah, very cool to see Charlie taking advantage and using the tool. I mean, I'm sure Clover's got something to add. I don't know how many times I open up a thing and somebody's got their own links, and that's it. And it's probably boilerplate, whatever they put in YouTube to always be posted. And then DJ posted. Thanks for that. That helps the system out as well. What's this ops lens? Anybody else use that?
I've never heard of it.
I heard Charlie talks about it occasionally when he'll talk about the things that he's associated with, and then Gun Freedom Radio talks about it. So I don't know if it's a Republican thing or if it's a conservative thing, or I don't think it's a gun thing. So this is the kind of look like midnight, right? A little bit. And then guy was a cop, and then after what 10 or 15 years of being a cop, he enlisted in infantry, and like say, he told some stories, and then he's not really a 2A guy as much as he's some guy running for Congress, I guess. And Charlie doesn't interview as much as let the person talk. So you kind of get to know the personality of the person. And this is a guy who, took whatever it was, 50 minutes. He took, I don't know, Charlie must not have talked maybe 5 minutes of that whole 50 minutes, right? I mean, this guy talked all the time. So, you know how it is when no one's guiding you, you're just going to ramble. So he rambled for a bit, but he was a great conversationalist, whatever, great storyteller. He had experiences to talk about.
Anyway, he totally wasn't just stumping for himself, which was good. It was nice that he relaxed. I mean, it was such the pace and their interplay was so relaxed, and the guy, he was just letting stuff flow, and I enjoyed it.
I mean, I don't even know. Did they even talk about him being a candidate for Congress? I think maybe now that I hear that, he might have talked about it, but it wasn't brought up more than occasionally or in closing or something. I mean, I remember he was a veteran and a cop, but anyway, so it was a pretty chill conversation. But the thing is, here's the thing. Listen to it if you want. It's Charlie, and it's this guy. He's not a gun guy. It's not like you're going to miss nothing if you never listen to this, but you're not going to waste 50 minutes if you listen to it either. He does have a great story to tell. But his gun perspectives are that of one who doesn't have much depth of perspective on gun stuff. It's all stuff from the range, and that's not good or bad. It's just the way it is, So it is. I'm not going to agree with almost any of his gun perspectives. It's all just, what's the word, superficial. He hasn't put a heck of a lot of thought into it. He's not, he didn't say it anywhere, but he's close to being if you rack the shotgun, that'll scare the guy. He's close to being that level of just superficial. I don't know what the words are, basic gun stuff. He hasn't really, I don't know, whatever. So that part of it, he's not really a gun dealer. But anyway, it was an interesting interview.
Was it on Paul's show that Charlie was just a guest and he was talking? I think it might have been this guy that Charlie was talking about, where the guest was too big for his vehicle.
Oh, snap. So that was interesting. I was listening to Charlie on the Second Amendment bullet thing the other day, and he was saying something about a guest who he was going to be editing the video for, and then I'm like, wait a minute, we watched that a week ago or something, right? So was that this guy, or is that something else I'm thinking of? But anyhow, it had to be that article with Charlie, because it was Charlie talking about upcoming videos or something. So maybe I just missed that part of it.
Yeah, that guy is huge.
Oh, and then the other thing I thought was kind of interesting is going in circles, or what goes around or whatever, you see it more than once, is Kenn Blanchard. Where did he have an interview with? Second Amendment? I guess his was with the Daily Bullet also, right?
Yeah.
And he was talking about an Indian, and this guy's talking about an Indian. So it's,
mm-hmm.
And they weren't recorded anywhere near each other. So definitely, physically and time-wise, totally different people, just happen to be bringing up Indians. So it's kind of interesting. Imagine we're all going to start seeing Indian ads on freaking websites and stuff now.
Well, at least that legacy brand is still around, and he admitted to being a Harley guy all his life, but he was just really into his Indian. And maybe it's the legacy of the Booze Fighters MC. I think they're still around. They were mostly Indian riders. And
Well, we'll talk about that off air. But anyway, so that's the topics I had. Or if anybody else the other topics, I guess it's 2A Tuesday. Let's see, what do we have for a license plate today? What did I have? Pennsylvania today?
Yeah, it's a lame one.
So what you got?
Our license plate.
You got pretty awesome gun laws. You your state looks like a 30-round magazine. Must be great living there.
It's not too bad. I mean, when you hear some of the
Chocolate.
other, what's up?
Y'all get free chocolate, from what I understand.
Oh yeah, if you live over by Hershey. Luckily I don't live by Hershey, so I don't have to eat that poison.
Isn't there like rivers of chocolate and chocolate trees and chocolate rocks and stuff?
It's actually a pretty cool place. Like all the lampposts there are shaped like Hershey Kisses and crap like that. It's pretty neat.
Go to
Well,
wherever
the
they
river of
mine the
chocolate, I don't know. Let's say because
Go to
I
wherever
never
they
thought
mine
about fishing in it.
wherever they mine the chocolate, and what they'll do a lot of times, instead of digging through all that chocolate, they'll just blow hot water at the chocolate, and that'll melt it, and then you just go to that river of chocolate that comes out of there. That's their waste chocolate.
Yep.
That's some of the highest quality hot chocolate you can get. It's cheap.
Filtered through Augustus Gloomf.
But back in the day, when Bob was the co-host and we would do stuff, we would research the state and we would talk about it. Actually, I think we would basically just go to Wikipedia or someplace and look at the stats. But since we have somebody from Pennsylvania, I don't know, aside from obviously anything recent that might be weird that's affecting it, growing up there and just being in Pennsylvania, I got to assume has been pretty chill with gun laws.
Yeah, I mean, I've always felt it's a pretty pro-gun state. I think part of that is our hunting heritage. I mean, I haven't really looked into it since high school, but last time I did look, Pennsylvania is the second most hunted state in the country, and that's only behind Texas. So I think, like I said, our hunting heritage has something to do with the gun laws that we do have. Because when you look, we're surrounded by Maryland, New Jersey, Delaware, New York. Historically, those are terrible two-way states, and three of our sides are covered by them. And yet, if I want to go and get a concealed carry permit or renew my carry permit, I just walk into my sheriff's office, fill out a piece of paper, and most counties will print the new one off right there. For some reason, my county, it takes 7 days, but 7 days later, I got it in the mail. I'm not jumping through any other hoops, not having to go to special trainings and renewals and things like that. It's pretty nice.
An interesting tidbit of information on the whole hunting aspect of it. I believe it's number 6. I don't think it cracks the top 5. Is New York. And people, you associate firearms hunting. New York is one of those that get lumped in, and gets lumped in obviously with California, with Illinois as really bad, states as far as firearm and stuff like that. So it's interesting that there's that dynamic where New York is so bad, but yet it's within the top 10 of states as far as hunting.
Well, when you think about it, there's 7 million gun owners in California. We did that research one time. It might have fluctuated since then, but whatever, 7 million-ish. There can't be 7 million people in Wyoming. So there must be more gun owners in California than there are people in Wyoming, right? Like,
this is true.
So, but that doesn't mean nothing. I mean, are not able to do much with that. So I just brought up on the screen because Barbecue's over there bragging about how much hunting goes on in Pennsylvania, and I can't believe it. Pennsylvania's big, right? And there's a lot of trees in it, but that's the problem. There's a bunch of trees in it. You can't have that many deer when there's that many trees. Out here, there's mountains, so it's vertical terrain. I'm just thinking states like Montana and like Wyoming, big states. I don't know. Nevada's got too much desert in it, but some of them big states. Anyway, so I found a thing that's got all of them, I think. So I'm just going to whip through and we can keep talking. But
yeah, the list I've seen breaks it down. You made a good point. It breaks it down by like hunting license, right? And so that's not per capita as a percentage of population. That's going to definitely make a difference, I think.
So this one is California's number 50. 900,000 total tags. So 1 million tags is the least state. And then you got Rhode Island, which makes no sense at all. Oh, you know what? It isn't just. So this is done by more than just that, because obviously there's only 26,000. So, I guess they're doing it by percent of residents with a paid hunting license. So 0.7 in California, Rhode Island, we'll whip through. Hawaii makes sense. Some kind of sparkly soda. New Jersey makes sense. They're just little. Massachusetts, well, they're big, but I guess whatever. Florida, that's interesting. Florida, that doesn't make any sense. Being number 45. Connecticut makes sense, I guess. Delaware, all right.
A lot of state land in Florida that you can't hunt on, by the way.
I guess maybe they're just too busy fishing, maybe. And there's not that big a state, I guess. And there's a lot of retirees. Maybe they're just not hunting. Maybe land. Nevada. Well, again, there's a lot of desert in Nevada, and a lot of people just live there for gambling or whatever. Washington. I'm losing respect for Washington. Come on, Washington. Come on. 40. That's crazy. Illinois. I don't know. There's New York, number 38. Some lady is number 37, I guess. 37 is Virginia. 3.3% is what we're at already. Ohio.
Figured Ohio would be higher.
What are they?
Did they
Attacking little baby alligators in South Carolina? What's wrong with those people? What were you saying?
Oh, I said I figured Ohio would be higher.
Oh yeah, I would have totally thought it, but it's maybe because they're booking over to Pennsylvania, like barbecue claims.
Could be.
I don't know what's going on here, but this looks like that kid's definitely shooting 9mm. 11, or that's Indiana, number 34. That makes no sense, because you'd think they'd have to hunt just to keep their soya beans and corn and shit.
It'll be interested to know how it's exactly how it's calculated. But
I think it's just by this hunting licenses, because that's the only thing that's been
Okay.
increased. Now you guys
Well,
have 1,700,000.
I got a question about that. Do they break it out for resident and non-resident? Because I imagine Texas gets a lot of off-season from the northern states. Because it'd be interesting to know.
Paid hunting licenses. So I don't know.
Oh,
In
okay.
Texas, if someone goes to a ranch, do they got to buy a hunting license?
oh yeah,
Like shoot an elephant or whatever weird thing?
Yeah, they got to take their cut.
What?
Totally. Yeah, the state's going to get their cut.
here in Texas, you have to have a hunting license. Period. I mean, unless it's like varmint control type situation, or like coyotes or pigs are tearing up your crops, or coyotes are bothering your livestock, or something like that. But I mean, if you legit are going hog, pig hunting,
People need to have a hunting license even for varmints and that kind of thing, just because they want to know who's out there shooting stuff.
Right.
Make sure you got rules or whatever. But I'm thinking more like if somebody has like a bunch of African critters on their own property, is that still a hunting license?
Mm-hmm. As far as I'm aware, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it would make sense.
So,
Because
Clover,
still,
do I remember correctly that Texas residents only have to throw down about $100? They can hunt all year, all seasons, and all critters.
Oh, it's less than $100 for hunting and fishing, like full fledged everything credential you can get.
That's bonus. That's super bonus.
Yeah, it's like 80 to $90, I think. I want to say, don't quote
you
me
get
on that.
$80 to $90 deers a year. Holy crap!
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, so Texas 33, still 33. Just saying. New Hampshire. How did New Hampshire beat you, Texas? Look at that. New Hampshire, more hunters than Texas. I'm just saying. More percentage.
Throw out a link. How are they calculating this?
Here, I'll give you.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to know.
That's kind
It's
of
by
weird.
percentage of residents with a paid hunting license, right there.
Well, but
Now you
there
got
are
your-
like
Okay, well, percent would make sense. I'm not going to argue percent.
Yeah,
You got a lot of
you
people.
do is have a big city that doesn't hunt, and then boom,
Right.
your percent goes down.
Yeah, your percent goes down. Yeah.
what
So
those
those
tiny
states that-
northeastern states.
That's
The
why
tiny
they were all
northeastern
allowed.
states. Yeah.
This
That's
is
why
going to
they were
be
all-
this is going to be conducive to your Montanas and Wyomings probably then, right?
Yeah, exactly. The big open states are going to win this one, but we're still only at 30. Colorado's coming in there. New Mexico. There's none of this in New Mexico. I don't know where they're coming up with these fucking pictures. North Carolina, they're shooting bears up there, even though they have a right to arms. Georgia, again, alligator killers, they don't care. Michigan, that makes more sense because
Oh,
now
yeah.
you're talking about people that have a bloodlust.
The great
Iowa,
wood.
again,
Thank you.
protecting
Yep.
soybeans. They have to protect their soybeans. Pennsylvania, well, you're number 24. And your deers don't touch the ground. I guess they can fly. That's a reindeer. And then you got Kentucky. I don't know. I guess that could be Kentucky. That makes sense. You would think Kentucky's up there. This makes no sense. Oregon makes no sense at all. And it makes no sense. They got a big city. I would definitely think Texas and Arizona would be higher than Oregon and a bunch of those other states. Utah, where do they even hunt? I've been a whole bunch of places in Utah and there's barely any trees. I can't see how this works. I can understand that everybody in Utah buys a hunting license, but I just can't see that many of them hunting.
Or was that maybe like
Maybe it's
mule
because
deer?
nobody lives in Utah.
Mule
There's a
deer?
very low population. Well, it's definitely going to be. Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask Dead Horse. We have both here because the mules will be down here. Wait, the mules go up and the whitetails are down here, or vice versa. I can't remember.
You got goats in Utah at all? Any type of goat?
If there's mountains, there's goats. Yeah, maybe not a lot, but yeah.
I
But down
love
here,
the
at least,
bighorn.
the bighorns are kind of protected, and
Right.
they were endangered, but now you can hunt them. They're just not a shit ton of tags. Missouri, that makes sense. There's a shit ton of places to hunt in Missouri. Louisiana makes a lot of sense. Kansas, I guess they're protecting their soybeans and their chickens. Nebraska, that makes sense. They have a bloodlust. Mississippi, that makes, I guess, sense if you count shrimps as hunting. Arkansas, that makes no sense. How big Arkansas? I guess it kind of makes sense, but there's just not many people in Arkansas, I guess, so it can make sense, right? There's not really a big city. There's cities in Arkansas, but they're not huge populations, right?
Mhm.
Minnesota makes sense, and that doesn't even take into effect probably all the Canadians that sneak into Minnesota and poach.
Right.
Then you got Tennessee, that makes sense. They got a bloodlust. Alabama, that doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. That's why this cow is so upset about it. Vermont, crying out loud. That doesn't make any sense to me. Maine, I don't know. I think Maine is because they got a low population, right?
Yeah. you would
West
think.
Virginia, these people can't afford food, so they have to hunt. Wisconsin, because they got ladies, they let their ladies hunt there, I guess. That makes sense because those people hunt a lot, they just don't ever catch anything. And then you got Alaska, again, they have to by default. This makes no sense. How did Oklahoma? They pay to get into the top 10? How the hell did they get in the top 10? What are they even hunting? Are they hunting Indians?
Have to ask
This-
Snob about that
Crazy.
one.
Here comes. I was gonna say, here comes a new snob video.
Maybe Snob wrote this article.
Oh, they probably did.
Check that.
They probably did. It's top 10. It's top 10 states with registered hunters.
Well, there you go.
Idaho? I don't know about Idaho, but I guess that makes sense. They're always protecting their potatoes. North Dakota?
That poor little deer. They're shooting little bitty deer up
They
there.
have
Huh?
a baby deer. That's because they've got a bloodlust and they hunt so many of them, they don't even have a chance to be born. They hunt them in labor. That looks like a little skinny bear in Montana. That doesn't make no sense. That's the kind of bear. I'll go punch that bear. I ain't scared of that bear at all. It looks like a dog wearing a bear. Wyoming? That pretty much makes sense. You'd think they'd win. South Dakota wins, which I don't know. I guess that makes sense. Plus, you figure
neighbor to the
in
north.
South Dakota, North Dakota, you got a lot of these guys that are up there fracking, the fracking workers, and they've got a bunch of that fracking money to spend. So I'll bet you they're hunting the shit out of place. Because what else are you going to do up there?
It could be. Yeah.
Anybody who's like, oh, okay, I'm up here for a season. All right, I'm going hunting. Right. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, that was kind of interesting. That's from MSN, so we can call it bogus bullshit. Probably. I don't like the way the ranks went. I don't agree with it, so it's fake news.
Fake news.
But yeah, interesting. I don't know. I guess I could see it. I guess a little bit because you figure in Arizona at least, our cities are schools and government and Air Force, right? Like we have a lot of people that just live in the cities that don't do nothing. They might go biking or look at the mountains, but they're not going out there, and they're not taking a gun out there if they are, right? So it would have just been old Arizonans, and that was residents. I bet you it would be different if it was counting how many people go to a state to hunt. Think about how many people go to Wyoming to hunt, or go to wherever, Montana or someplace to hunt.
There's a lot of factors, I'm sure. I mean, did they put, for example, just to defend Texas for a minute, the feral pig, for example, here in Texas.
Yeah, like how many people go to Texas year round, 365, right? Like they need to keep bringing people constantly, from what I understand, right? To keep them in check.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was probably quote unquote game animal.
Here's one thing that you got going for you. Pigs and humans are basically identical as far as their biology. We're basically clones of each other. So they're going to get the COVID, and because they don't wear masks, they don't care, and they get all right next to each other. So they're definitely going to get the COVID, and they're all going to get it.
That's one thing Texas has got. We got plenty of spare parts running around, right? So we could live forever.
Oh, yeah. Like, I need new lungs. No problem.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wrong size. There's a better size. Oh, that pig was smoking. Okay, there's a better one. That was a heavy runner.
Right.
Jesus. So help me to understand something. What's the difference between a feral hog and a javelina?
Javelina is a collared peccary. It's not anything like a pig. It's more like a giant
peccary.
Yeah, different.
Okay. It's out of South America, and it's more like a giant gerbil or something.
Feral pigs. You guys know where feral pigs came from, right? The reason that they're called the reason that they're called feral pigs.
They're crossbred with Russian hogs, right?
Well, what happened was you had settlers that moved into Texas, right? Louisiana, Texas. That was a pre-Texas Revolution era, right? That swath, Louisiana border, eastern part of Texas, Natchitoches, those areas, right there along the border, was kind of a no man's land, and so people would move in from the states to there, eventually migrating on into Texas when Mexico allowed the gringos, basically, right, to come down and get land. But you're right. There was a lot of different types of pigs, right, that were raised as livestock. And with Indian raids going on, with the Texas Revolution, a couple of other things that happened in that. Pirates were really big coming up the rivers in Texas, and eastern rivers in Texas. They were much bigger at the time. And navigable. Yeah, that's the word. Anyway, there was a lot of different types of pigs that were, it was the same way with feral cats, right? It's just cats people dump off, and then eventually they all go wild, and there's different breeds all intermingled. And it's the same way. That's, you've got Russian, you've got so many different breeds of pigs that were turned loose, let loose, whatever the case may be, right? To just roam and go wild. And so that's why you can go out and hunt pigs at night here, and you'll see, there'll be a herd of pigs, and there'll be 50 pigs out there, and 49 of them all look completely different. They've got traits of some totally different pig. There's no two that's identical. It's crazy. You'll see pink ones, white ones, polka dotted ones. You'll see ones that almost look like razorbacks. You'll see, there's all kinds. The variety that you'll get in one bunch. But that's where it come. It legit is legit feral pigs. It's not like a wild population exploded or anything. It was domesticated animals that were essentially let loose, turned loose, got loose.
Well, just like if you took a bunch of cows, I guess, or horses, right?
Horses is a good scenario. Yeah.
When you let them go, they're just going to all start breeding with each other. And then now you don't have like whatever, this or that, or the other kind of breeds. You just got Mustangs or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's interesting. The javelinas are all the same completely.
That's a totally different
or whatever.
South Texas, West Texas, totally different breed coming up from Central America. Yeah.
But I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. They're they're enough like a pig. You would have, I would have thought that the natives or the what would you call them? The prehistoric natives would have domesticated them, but I guess they're
They
ornery.
they don't gain weight and everything the same. They don't fatten
Yeah,
out the
they're
same.
just too ornery, and they're not worth it in the long run or something.
Mhm.
But the little baby ones look cute. Like they're neat looking. They're babies.
Oh,
But then
baby,
they really fast don't look any cute anymore.
baby feral pigs are that way too. I can't tell
Well,
you.
yeah, they're pigs.
We've
They're
got
pigs.
it's wraps. Baby pigs in general are one of the cutest things. But
Wilbur.
they lose their luster really quick. Even potbelly pigs.
They start looking gross and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so but yeah, that's a thing. And then the pigs are just assholes, so they're rooting stuff up, and they don't give a crap, and they're just got to keep eating constantly, and those are just jerks. So they're going to be farting around playing with each other and stuff, and just knocking things over because they're big.
Well, then they could drop 2 litters a year, and multiple bursts. You know what I mean, per litter.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. What do they have, like 8 or something? Probably
Yeah,
average.
Yeah, something like that. I would say twice a year. Yeah, and their time before puberty, the time before the females can give birth, and the time it takes for maturity, right, for a female or a male, either one. I don't know the number, but it's extremely short as well. So.
Oh, and you know that they're getting plugged at first estrus too.
Oh yeah, as dense as the population is, yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why you go after the sows.
Mhm.
You want to take the sows down as much as you possibly can. That's the only hope you got at even trying to slow things down.
All right. Well, so let's see. We got Kenn Blanchard on Daily Bullet, staging the emergency cell phone, test flight of that rocket, and the rally coming up for the topics from that. Let's see what else we got. Is there something else?
I have something. We kind of when we were talking about Mr. Musk, the world's fastest human died yesterday, and the world is a less happy place today with that news. At least for me, Chuck Yeager was my dad had the right stuff in '79, and he was a big fan of the Mercury 7 system. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, that guy, wow, I mean, literally the fastest man on Earth. So yeah, X-1A crashing in the middle of the desert. That's such an epic scene in the right stuff. That came out in '83. So I was like a freshman in high school, and we saw that like 4 times in the theater, and that shit was epic. It was like 3 hours long or some shit. That was great. But yeah, one of our nation's aerospace heroes, the first, and never an astronaut, test pilot. Yeah, the right stuff.
All right. So we didn't talk since the end of the auction. Did you get to see any of the auctions ending from yesterday?
I looked through a few of them, and I was
Well, like after it was over, you mean?
well, as they were going off.
Okay, so you got to see that. What did you think of that system? Like, that is a really cool system.
It was pretty neat, yeah.
Yeah, I wish I would have been live for that. It was right in the middle of everybody.
It counted them down, and of course it dinged as they actually closed, and then it brought other ones up from the waiting area to fill it as it went. It was kind of neat.
And then they would stage back. You would get a bid, 2 minutes would add, and then they would it was really fun to watch. Like that, I can't wait. Usually though, it's her birthday on whatever, the day before, they have the big gun show, which they didn't set up at this year because it was weird. And then their big auction all in a row. So typically the family takes some time off right after this.
Right.
So I'm not going to bug them right away. And then it's Christmas. But I am curious to find out whenever I can chat with them again about nerd stuff, what that system is, because I'm sure it's not cheap. But that was super fun. Like, that was really fun. And I had thought about putting some of my stuff in their auction. Now I'm definitely doing it.
Right.
Because that was just too fun. And the stuff went for decent money. I don't know if that's a sign of the times or they just get a bunch of people that don't mind spending some money
Probably
on stuff.
probably the type of people, the type of clientele and people they're used to dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it takes. People have different opinions of how much their money's worth and what they want. And
I mean, it's that
to me,
way.
but the
And
stuff
it,
that-
it doesn't surprise me that their gun store wouldn't generate certain things as well, because I know around here, you've got, one gun store that really doctors, lawyers, those guys go big game hunt. They'll go in, they'll spend $5,000 on a rifle. They
Right.
might keep it for one season, and then it's on the shelf in there for sale for used. And then the next time they go to hunt a Cape buffalo or whatever the crap they're hunting, in Africa or wherever it's at, they buy something totally new to go to take. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
that really high end clientele. And then you got the poor man's little gun shop that, they sell more sub $300 firearms than they do anything,
Yeah, and they're kind of a mixture of both. I mean, they have
Yeah.
a decent selection of a little bit of everything, but not so much the high end stuff, but definitely a lot of cowboy World War II old stuff, collector stuff. So like enough of it that's people are going to come in to uh, keep up to date with what they got. So
Right.
and they
But
think
it's
definitely
pretty
gonna-
dry, pretty dry air out there, isn't it?
oh yeah, definitely.
So, like, if you stood something up in the closet, I mean, here in Texas, if you stood something up in the closet in just an old house that didn't have, any type of regulated temperature or something like that, humidity would eventually get to it. And you got to figure out their
Well,
stuff
the
up
other
in the
side
attic
of
or
it
whatever.
here is it'll dry the hell out. Like everything will get the equivalent of being dried completely. So it'll destroy wood in a different way than rust will destroy. So yeah, our
Gotcha.
metal will be fine, but our wood will be killed. Where I don't know what happens to
Right.
wood in Texas. I guess it kind of depends on what it was treated with. And blah, blah, blah.
It'll mold here. You'll get a mold that'll develop on it if you're not careful.
Yeah, but a lot of times you can just wash that off or just deal with it being darker and it's still a stock that works, right? Where out here you've seen stuff that gets deserty. It just sort of looks all brittle and it's strong, but it just looks horrible. It's all.
Yeah, it starts opening up the grain, I guess, right?
That's what it is. Yeah, it dries out, opens up the greens really bad.
Mhm.
And then it kind of depends. Like if it was stuck in a mine and got lost forever, like that sort of does a different thing to the wood, and it won't anyway. Then if you left it laying against a tree on the weather, obviously it's going to be different. And sometimes, again, depending on where it is in the weather, like because of the way the rain is here, like sometimes it can petrify it almost. Like it can get pretty hard, but
Right.
smaller. But anyway, well, I'm looking over at my Instagram. Angelina was out there. Oh, she's not gonna jump in, but yeah, I thought I was buying something else. I bought something, and I buy it on a regular basis. This filter, so it's like I don't even think about it. I just order it whenever I need it, and then I get it in this like little bubble envelope thing. And I had ordered one, and it had seemed like the amount of time that it would take, and I received it or whatever. And it's the kind of thing I don't get an alert or anything that it arrived. I just find it in the mail and I know I got it. So anyway, this thing arrived in the mail and I got it. And it's the same packaging and everything and same label, I thought. And it was with some other mail, so I just had it in my hands. And then I go in here and it's nothing, just like nothing. So I don't ever open the box on it or anything. So I just take a razor blade and I open it. And then when I was opening it, I was like, will they put something in here? Like, why is there more than one thing in here? And then opened it and it was, I don't know. I mean, how often does that happen? I don't open stuff that often, I don't think. But when you open something, you expect to see like one kind of a white rectangle, I guess, box, cardboard in there. And instead it's like, I don't know, billions of patches come squirting out, just like when freaking Han Solo opens the Tauntaun's guts. All these patches come flying out. And I'm like, what the fuck? And my first thought is like, open the box. Why didn't I have the video going?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, what the hell? And then I figured out that Angelina sent me like basically every patch she's ever made. So I taped it all back up and acted like I didn't know it was
Right. Yeah.
in the video.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Just turn the open portion away from you or something, away from the camera.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. I have done that before.
Anyway, yeah, she sent me a whole shit ton of them, a bunch of the new ones and stuff. And we'd been talking about them and stuff. So I guess I'll just show it here. The one that I just posted on Instagram is their, I don't know what it is. It's not really the logo, but little owl guy, right?
Oh yeah.
But man, like this is super three-dimensional. Like the first off, the detail and like the shoelaces and the labels on stuff, and then really small here it says Los Angeles. And this whole thing is not the biggest patch in the world. So this isn't like, this is definitely a lot of little detail on here. And I'm just taking like a magnified view of it. But then all this little white stuff is just really neat. So anyway, I was just digging the complexity of it. And then for me, when I look at stuff like this, I look at the stitching and whether or not, you know, it's shortcutting across little gaps and stuff, because, you know, it's just an indication of the quality of the factory that makes it. And her stuff isn't made in Asia. Her stuff is made in a different continent altogether. So anyway, super cool. Anyway, so that's I don't have much else over there. I was watching the the VA CDL thing. I got a weird comment over here. You guys can help me figure it out. So I posted this thing about the gun show that was $50 and I had to pay $8. I'm super cheap, right? So it bothered me to have to pay to go in. But I'm not anti-gun show. What the fuck? I mean, it's all I do is talk about gun shows. So some guy goes, was it an anti-gun show? You know, the one that doesn't allow concealed carry? So what is that supposed to mean, right? Like no gun show allows concealed carry. So you knew, or what are you trying to prove or whatever? So I click on his name and he's got a private account and a link to holsters. Right? So I'm like, oh, okay. So he sells inside the waistband holsters. And he's complaining that gun shows don't let him concealed carry. Okay, so what is that? Like some kind of intro to a conversation about concealed carry holsters or something? Right. So, you know, I've had it's not like this is the first time I've ever had somebody try to approach me in a new way to try to get some kind of a holster in my hand or whatever, garbage crap. So I look over here in their FAQ and I'm looking for, of course, where are you made? That's not even answered. Oh, it says right here, a family-owned company, individually handcrafted, all products made in Pride in USA. Okay, so I guess I was wrong. I figured it was all just imported stuff.
Yeah, better. I've heard it better before.
Okay. So, yeah, anyway, I don't know who this guy is, but yeah, he's just basically complaining about concealed carry at gun shows. And I'm like,
well, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's like,
well, we have virtue signalers just like the opposite side does, and that's all he is. He's a
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
You know, I know Tech was last night, but something interesting that happened to me. I'm waiting on. Spent some of my big Patreon money. You know what I mean, on some gear a couple weeks ago. Still waiting on some batteries to come in for a camcorder I got. Right, a little handy cam, or it's Canon, so it's not a handy cam. That would be a Sony. But either way, for a little camcorder I got, I thought, you know, I'll get some batteries for that because I got to spend money anyway, and I can start use it, do some different angles and some stuff. And so last night, I expected the batteries to be in today, and they didn't come in today. Hopefully, they'll be here tomorrow. If not, they got freaking lost, which is going to suck because I'm about tired of losing stuff and having issues with the mail and shipping in general. But so I was rummaging around looking for that camera because it's been forever. It's been over a year, I'm sure, since I used it, right? And in my looking around, I found another camcorder, a Sony, actually a handy cam, that I forgot I even had. So I got on tonight, ordered some, earlier today, and ordered some extra batteries for it. So I've got two cameras now.
Like if I find stuff, I was actually, I got some like organizer drawer things. So I was reorganizing where my crap is, some of my crap. And when I find stuff that I forget I had, it's because I didn't throw away some like really old thing. Like I was going through my phones and I'm like, oh, I guess I thought I threw away all my old phones. I have some of my old phones here. But you're saying it was a new camera or whatever.
It's new enough. It'll shoot 1080, you know, 1080p.
Yeah.
so new enough. And it wasn't thrown away. It was just put away in a box that I had no idea. You know what I'm saying? And so when I went looking for that, I went looking for the other camera. I knew I had put it away in a box somewhere because I wasn't using it, but I wasn't going to throw it out. It wasn't worthless. But in looking for one, I found the other that I totally forgot that I had. So I was like, hey, bonus, I got an extra.
So how do y'all keep stuff? Do you keep all your cameras in one spot and all your radios in one spot and all your first aid spot stuff in one spot, or do you keep like all your camping stuff in one spot and all your prepping stuff in one spot? Or
no, I mean, just depending on what it is, it can go in a different box or tote or something somewhere. I'm a pretty big hoarder, so if it's not something that I use on a regular basis, most of the time I've got to go look for it.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you've also got people around that are taking your shit and moving it and that kind of stuff. That can be easy to deal with.
I don't have a huge problem with that.
Well, I mean, you've had to deal with that.
Not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, but if you put something down 10 years ago, it doesn't mean that's where it is anymore. If you've had kids and wives.
Well,
and
that's true. My wife will go through and move stuff too.
And
Occasionally.
it's not like intentionally. It'll just be like, oh, I needed to borrow a flashlight, and I thought I put it back where it was, but now I put it down 4 feet over there, and it isn't really where it was.
Yeah, or they move stuff from one box to the next. That's the biggest thing. It's like they'll be looking for something in one box, and that what they take out to get to it, they'll put into another box somewhere, and then not put it back.
6 times later, nothing's in the same box as it started.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, it's not in this box, so which box is it in? You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, bonus. I mean, now I've got a couple of cameras I can work with, something that I plan on hopefully playing around with a little bit for future videos and stuff like that.
Did
Oh yeah, that'll be sweet. You'll be able to run all kinds of B-roll with the extra camera.
Well, I get different angles. I mean, even while you've seen some of the cinematic stuff, I'm sure even when people are talking, and it'll switch camera angles, while they're talking and stuff like that. So just kind of switch up the feel of the videos. Maybe depends on how big of a pain in the rear end it's going to be. Ooh, and I just remembered. I'm glad we were talking about this. I've got to get a memory card reader stick thing for my laptop because it doesn't have a slot in it. At least I don't think it does. But yeah, it depends on how big of a pain in the rear end editing out multiple camera angles and stuff ends up being, because I make no bones about it. I do not like editing video. I hate it.
Are you saying you're going to buy a card reader for your laptop?
Yeah.
It's so old it doesn't have a card, or it's so new it doesn't have a card?
It's so new.
Holy shit, new ones don't even have card readers stuck in them?
I'm pretty sure this one doesn't. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, if you're gonna buy one, I must have a billion of them laying around, because for a while there, every time you bought a card, it would come with its own little USB version.
For what you could ship it to me, I could almost buy one, and I may have
I'm
one.
just wondering if I'm not already shipping you something.
Well, that's true.
But I don't know if you need it right away. Yeah, like it's not going to cost.
No, it's not an immediate. No, it's not an immediate thing. Gee.
Oh well, if you don't need it right away, then yeah, I'll just grab one and throw it in a chair. Next time I send stuff to you, I'll leave one in there, or 2 of them. Like I say, if you're talking about just literally a thing to get the card into your computer and it doesn't need to be fancy,
just
I have a bunch.
SD card to USB, and it doesn't even have to be micro, because I've got the adapters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I've got a couple. Like I say, that's the kind of thing I got for a while. Even when I'm talking about, like for a minute there, when those cards, especially when the micros weren't even a thing hardly.
Right.
They almost always, because they weren't in laptops yet, they almost always gave you a little adapter thing. And I don't know if it's fast or slow or what, but I just kept them because I'm not going to throw away something that's got a use, right? Because look, 7 years later, I can give it to someone.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking now to see, kind of looking through my device manager to see if I see anything, but I don't see any slots on the side or anything like that for this thing.
Well, that's the thing about card readers. All it takes is a little tiny slot nowadays. But I haven't. Oh no, yeah, I was jamming one into this new laptop, and it's up front in a little weird, just a little slot. And actually, it had a thing jammed in the slot, so it was really just a cutout, and I had to poke it, and it popped out. You know how it does.
Yeah. No, I don't.
Yeah, that's the way my Asus was. same way.
I don't know why they can't put them next to your keyboard, like in a cool way, like shove it down into your keyboard like a key.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't have to be your only one, but it would be cool to have it there. I mean, I guess you'd snap it every time you closed it without realizing, but
Oh, snap. This may have one. Hang on just a second. I've got a card behind me. Holy Jesus, that little slot? Maybe it is.
I'll bet you, because they don't really make a label or nothing.
Well, I don't know what else. I don't even know that that's a
Well,
slot
but
or it's just a shiny spot. I'm fixing to find out.
sometimes they have that locky thing, like some sort of a locking thing that snaps into a slot.
Well, it's got some kind of a slot here, but I can't get a card in it. So I'm guessing that's not what that is.
All right. Well, one of the other things I put in here is I got my book back. So the Blue Book of Gun Values, that company, they've been around for a while. I forget when they started doing it, 1950 or something. It was a long time ago. They started making this book, and it's definitely the size. It's way bigger than a phone book, and it literally has. It's like it says. It's the Book of Gun Values. It has a pretty decent job of describing every gun out there that you're ever going to find and the value of it in all the different conditions. And it's efficient and super interesting book. Get one for sure. They come out with them every year, and gun shops usually keep the new one around and maybe the old one around, depending on how busy the shop is. If two people ever need to use it, they'll sometimes keep last year's because they hardly ever change. But if it's 3 years old, they almost don't care about it anymore. And it costs them maybe $20 to $40 or something to buy one new. So if you want to get one cheap, get one that's like 3 years old. You can almost get one for free. And then if you buy one that's a year old, it's got to be probably half price or something. And then the new ones, like say whatever they are, $30, $40. Really neat books though. Anyway, they've come out with, I don't know, dozens of books. They're a publisher. So whenever I was super big still, they came out with this book about pythons, those cold snakes, or I forget what they call it. But it's like a coffee table book, really fancy pictures with all the different Colt snake guns. And it's like a $99 book. And they said, hey, do you want to look at this and do a review? I said, yeah, sure. So they sent me like a whole bunch of books, and I did a quick review of it. And then this friend I know, this cop I know, at the time he was a cop. Now he's retired. But I think of all the people I know, he's the most nerd of like gun history or whatever. Like he just likes that stuff. So I figured if anybody knows about this or is interested in it, this guy's going to be interested. So I let him borrow the book, and I was like, look at it for as long as you want. And then whenever you're done with it, we'll meet up. I'll take you to breakfast or something. And then tell me about the book, give me a review or whatever. And then I can say what's so good about this book. And that was like years ago. I never saw the book again. So I guess his daughter was like, hey, clean out this room or something. And he's like, oh, I found your book. So I went over and grabbed it today and chatted with him for a while. It's pretty interesting. He's a born back in the day, lived through the Woodstock era as a youngin', went to Nam, is whatever, in that era, and then been a cop ever since, and then recently retired. So, it's interesting chatting with a person with that kind of insight, all the stuff that's been going on. And again, I haven't chatted with him for maybe 2-3 years, I guess. He's mentioned, if you see the little handout that comes with the Old West Guns book, or the Old West Guns playing card deck, it has this little fold out, because that deck is dedicated to a guy who had a radio show here in Tucson. And I got a lot of help with that deck. That was the first deck I put a lot of effort in getting the dates and the vendors and everything right. And I didn't know that stuff. I just wanted to accumulate it. So in order to get accurate data, I reached out to a bunch of people I knew who were nerds about that kind of stuff. And this guy is one of those. He's one of the people mentioned in the thank yous on that deck. So yeah, it was kind of cool chatting with him for a bit and knowing he's still kicking. And then, like I say, just getting to chat with somebody. I don't get to chat with people. I work out of the house and I do most of my chatting with you people. So chatting with folks in real life is few and far between with all the craziness that's been going on and the lack of gun shows and the places that we would normally.
Right.
Actually, I probably have seen them at a gun show, since we actually talked, but it would be more of a head nod or a wave, if it wasn't opportune, whatever, to have a conversation. But anyway, because none of that's happening, it was pretty neat to be able to just get out and chat, and then have a chat with somebody who all these conversations, over the last while have not, we haven't had them. So we chatted for maybe an hour or something. It was pretty fun. And just getting and just chatting with somebody who doesn't go online all the time. So just getting a perspective that's fresh, I guess. I don't know if you probably don't cherish that as much if you get the opportunity to experience that more than I do. But most of the time I'm chatting with people that have the same exact opinions as me, or, nuances of it. But very rarely do I chat with somebody who's just, again, like with his experience set and then not really paying attention to online. I mean, as a regular old phone, like I've been texting him. I figured out like why I've been texting him all these times and nothing happened. He answered the phone while we were chatting, and it's like an old fashioned, like, how do you call that? Like just an old candy bar phone or whatever. I'm like, dude, I bet you that thing doesn't even get text messages. Just stacking up in some account somewhere. Right,
Yeah,
well,
the Gun Book of Modern Values, or whatever the heck it's called. That's actually the book or one of the books that they sent me in gunsmith school when we were going over the section of firearms identification and looking up values and all that fun jazz. Awesome book. I still have it, and I think it was actually a $40 book, and mine's got to be, I think, probably 12 years old now, and values are still fairly accurate, I find.
Well, that's the thing. Compared to gun broker or just a gun shop who knows, like a gun shop who's into out here, it would be cowboy guns or ARs or something. Like it can't know what an AR is worth. Like no book is going to know that, and it's hard for a book to know what cowboy guns are worth in Arizona versus South Carolina, right? So,
Yep.
Back in the day, it was dead on because it was a thing that everyone could look at. But now with Gunbroker and stuff, it's a massive good resource and it's in your hands and it doesn't have to worry about internet connections or lights being on. But, it works in a gun show, right? You don't have to have any kind of internet connection at a gun show to be able to use it. But the problem is when somebody's, addict to 9mm, these people are the worst. The people that gotta have their 9mm fixed, and the worst of them are the Beretta addicts or the CZ addicts, right? They're gonna come in all shaky and drooling and wiping snots off their nose, and then that's all their whole life is worrying about how much a CZ costs and like every permutation of it that's on every online site, and you're some guy just trying to provide for your family and keep business alive that provides taxes for the town and keeps the orphans and nuns in shelters. So you're trying to make a couple of percentage points on a gun that you bought or whatever, and then some internet experts like, oh no, I can get this thing for 47 cents cheaper if I were to buy it from this place and then use a coupon from that place, and they're going to price match it. So that's where you bring out your book and they're like, oh no, sorry, but that book isn't accurate. Gunbroker sold one yesterday and 4 hours ago.
Muted yourself.
Man, it was just ranting.
Yeah, I like it. I've got other ones too. I've got the ammo encyclopedia talking about from Blue Book is a great one, and then I've got some other ones that are not from. I can't remember if it's Macmillan or I don't even.
There's Flater something. Flaterman's Guide to Prices or something.
Like Cartridges of the World. That's done by. Who is it done by?
That's a good one.
I got it right here.
Is it Lyman?
Gun Digest Books.
I was gonna say, that's more of one of the gun publishers. I think.
Gun Digest Books, and then this one here, which is the Shooter's Bible, is Skyhorse Publishing, and I got several from Skyhorse Publishing, and so the reason I have them is there's gaps in Blue Book. Blue Book doesn't have everything, and especially when you start, I'm really into like late 1800s, early 1900 Americana, right? And it's what I call it. And a lot of that, there was a lot of different companies making a lot of different stuff back then. And Blue Book doesn't always have that stuff, and some of these other ones do. So, and then if you're really big into Smith and Wesson, it's somewhere here. I don't know where, but oh, good Lord, the complete guide to Smith and Wesson is absolutely amazing for info if you're into that sort of thing. It's not a coffee table book. You were talking about the Colt book. That's like a coffee table book, right? More than a reference.
Yeah, it's only a reference, like you say, like a coffee table book would be considered one, not something you'd thumb through. You wouldn't thumb through $100 giant book with color pictures to get a number or something.
Right.
It's not like a handy book that you use efficiently.
Yeah, the Smith and Wesson book is more of a resource. It's hard
And I
back.
figure that's why Blue Book doesn't bother with some of the things, because they know that the real aficionados or whatever are like going to go look at their own guides, right? So they just kind of put a superficial look
Right.
at some of that stuff.
Right.
A couple of shops that I go to, they hold on to the older editions of the Blue Book because the Blue Book continues to grow, but what they include or define reduces in some aspects. So the older ones where they had a little bit more space to print more information.
It's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. There's a guy. Yeah.
And they've been doing it for so long, it's probably worth having like maybe every 7 years or 10 years, maybe not 10 years, but maybe 5 or 7 years, every about that many would probably cover like what you're saying pretty decent.
Yeah. And Gun Digest books are really pretty good. And I run into a lot of those at used bookstores where I like to hang out, and getting them for, 25% of the cover price is great. That's actually how I found out who Masad Ayub was Gun Digest's Concealed Carry by Ayub. $5.
Greatest gun article ever written was in Gun Digest 2010.
Which article was that?
Greatest gun article ever written. Very well. So, anything else? I guess barbecue is like done talking about Blue Book. Out of here. I have the ammunition ones. I'm acquiring ammunition books now for my ammunition research projects, but I have yet to crack into them because I just haven't had the time, because I figure it's going to be one of those things as soon as I do, I'm just going to come up for air like 4 days later. I'm going to do it when I got some time to dig in. But I've been, I think I should post a picture of that one I grabbed. I grabbed one at the gun show this week, and he had a $10 price on it. $24 book. He had a $10 price tag on it. And it's like the size of a phone book. So I'm sure he didn't want to carry it around any more than I did. And he was nowhere near the entrance. So I go by there on my way out. And I'm like, how about $5? Took it. So I got a $5 book where, I don't know. I haven't looked to see what it would have been on eBay, but it would have been a while before I found that thing for that cheap on eBay.
Sweet loving.
Yeah, but it's more of like a reloader's book. Like Dead Horse would dig it more. Clover might like it. It's way more numbers and crap, but I bought it because it does say collectors on it, that it's for collectors, because there's kind of like Blue Book, how it's mostly just charts and numbers and shit, but there's some paragraphs of data that we're talking about. It's sort of like that. There's like these little paragraphs, and I figure for my research for $5, there's more than likely going to be something in there that's useful. And just to be able to, have decent discussions about the books in the future, I'll have it to be able to thumb through and know what the book, I'll be able to talk about the book more realistic, more that's what I'm looking for. More knowledge of the book, I guess. Any other topics? We're slowing down. Barbecue.
Yeah, so I went to the post office today, and week or so ago, I got a mouse that had a 2x3 Velcro on it, and took one of my 2020 2A flag patches and put that on, and was able to talk to the only guy at the counter about a little 2A action today. And he has a buddy that does he does a lot of like hand solo blasters. It's conversions and stuff like that. And he was talking about how his friend was getting a 3D printer and was all stoked for that. And I saw that Locked and Load Latinos got their machine. And I said, I wrote it down for him and said he should check it out. And he said that he might. So you got to spread a little bit of the good word today.
A scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to get a 3D printer, DJ? 10 is definitely, 1 is never.
Me?
What?
Are you asking the likelihood that I would get one?
Yeah, 1 to 10.
7.
Barbecue, 1 to 10.
Probably like a 3. I really want one, but the likelihood very slim.
Clover?
I'm gonna say 8, and that's honestly that's being conservative. It's up there.
Because you got one and you're looking at them.
I've got a friend that has an entire room dedicated to it. He owns like 8 machines, and I've actually used those machines here and there playing around, and I really do want one. So
now it sounds like you don't even need one if you got all that resource right now.
well, but I don't want to have to go to his house and stuff to do it. It takes time and all this other stuff. So, but it's just a matter. The machine I want is probably about $400. So it's just a matter of being able to drop $400 on it.
Dude, I'll bet you one of them 3D addicts. I'll bet you just go Home Depot or Lowe's, I guess, whatever's easier. Wait till they got especially in the winter, wait till they got a sale on the weed eater line, and then just bring them over a couple of coils of cheap weed eater line, and they'll make whatever you want. You know what I'm saying?
All you have to do, Clover, is say, "Hey, what's that over there?" When he looks, you just grab one and run.
Yeah. Well, but yes, I have been looking at them. I have been learning about them here and there, and actually looking at them and stuff like that. Like I said, just a matter of, and Christmas is coming, so who knows? Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. They're getting, every time I look at them, they're getting allegedly easier to use and less whatever hobby and more just use the thing like a device or an appliance, I guess. More appliance, maybe that's the way to say it.
More plug and play type thing or whatever.
Yeah, you don't have to become some kind of a erector set electronics hobby nerd who want to run the damn thing, and then have to deal with, oh yeah, I got one good part out of 72 in 72 hours. Satisfied with any accomplishment out of it versus like a drill press. You're not gonna oh yeah, I got one good hole out of this drill press I bought. If you don't get the first good hole out of it, you're taking it right back. What the hell's wrong with this drill press, right?
Right.
So when they're at that point, I don't even know if I'd still want one, because I seriously think it's one of those things that once they get to that level, there's going to be somebody that sets up shop that's with a vending machine. You're going to walk up with a USB drive and a credit card, plug it in, swipe, and then determine plug in what material you want and what color, and then come back in 5 minutes or come back in a half an hour or whatever, and it pops out like one of them wax things we would get at the zoo back in the day.
Right. Okay.
But anyway, you know what I'm saying? I seriously think that's what's going to happen. As soon as they're cheap enough, why wouldn't somebody have sort of like a shop?
Because then somebody has, number one, somebody has control over what they're going to make for you. So you get back into, oh, that's a gun item or whatever, I'm not going to make that, or anything else. And then also, if you spent the time to design something that's unique, like a prototype thing, then you're handing that to somebody that's then going to run out and potentially do something with it, and you're screwed. So,
no, you're right. And if they are that inexpensive, you might as well it's like a printer. I'm not going to, just because I can go to the printer and have things run off for 10 cents a color copy. It's way cheaper for me to just do it here, and I don't have to go to the damn printer to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure I will get one, but it will be a hand-me-down from somebody else who got sick of it, because I'm trying not to acquire, and I definitely don't need any more time-consuming hobbies.
Right.
Because I want to play with the robot before I play with a 3D printer. Like I say, I know somebody with a 3D printer. I figure if I really need a part, I'll bug them. Actually, I know a couple of people, but anyway, I haven't really needed a part that bad.
Well, they
So
have
yeah,
a model that's like, I mean, you can only do like a 4 inch by 4 inch, and I'm terrible at converting from metric, but those things are like right around $200. And to jump up, the exponential increase in price is almost like double just getting another inch and then another 2 inches. And then to the point where you're at, something you do, a foot. So that's where they get crazy expensive, and you'd have to offset it by doing a lot of work for your friends. But if everybody chipped in on one and their projects, and I've got all these machinists, who did CAD in their sleep as children, they know how to program that crap, set up programs and write them out and set it up.
so I got two things. I'm going back to the book thing real quick because I had to drop out because I got a phone call. Do you guys have a store called Ollie's near you?
No.
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna say because I always like to go in there and go through their books for firearms books because they always seem to have a great selection and they're always dirt cheap.
Wow.
What's that?
I just said, wow, cool.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are like $5 or $6, some of them upwards of 10. But if you look at what they normally are, you're talking about $40 books sometimes that might be a year old, like the Gun Digest stuff and things like that. Pretty good stuff. But now doubling back to the 3D printer thing, did you guys hear about the guy in West Virginia that was apparently printing drop-in auto sears?
That's
Uh-oh.
not good, bro.
That is
Yeah.
ill-advised.
And he was selling them online as coat hooks.
That's not good.
Yeah, apparently he was selling them online as coat hooks, and they were advertised as such and everything like that. But apparently, if you took the hook portion off or something, the back part of it, you could then drop into your AR and have a auto sear. I was like, that is pretty nifty. Not good. But at the same time, I'm kind of curious, how many of these were sold. And it could be one of those things where we say, well, there's this many out there, no crimes were committed, things like that. And use that against the NFA, but obviously that's a long shot.
No, it would only work because that's way too many ifs or whatever. If it was something like the brace where, it was similar or something about the trigger, I don't know. If it was somehow, parallel to like the brace, and then you could say, well, that's so much similar, but
I think you would get beat over the head with somebody did something illegal to start with. It's not like,
well, it started off in an illegal act, so it can't be like, see how there's good redeeming value out of it. It started illegally. It would be some sort of act of, the best you could hope for. It was an act of whatever. But the thing is that all it's doing is pushing down on areas and pushing against another area, so that the mechanism operates in a little different way than it would without that stuff pushing on those two areas, is all it's doing. So in other words, it's not unique. It's just doing two things to a mechanism, and there's all kinds of other ways to apply those two pressures to a mechanism, including like modifying it and doing other things that take up that same amount of space inside the mechanism, made out of different materials or created in a different way. So that's the thing, is that I would think a better way to address it would be like you're creating this division, this line in the sand where there's so many things that would intentionally or inadvertently cause this thing to operate in such a way that maybe that's a better angle. Like you're creating this line in the sand that's just, what's the word, like you made it up. But when we're talking about the AR specifically, because that's the only thing, at least in this case, that particular sear, like other guns will have other potential places where you could push on them or poke at them, and they're going to operate differently. But the AR has another particularity, or whatever you would call that, like another circumstance, and that's that no part of an AR is actually a receiver. Like nothing on the AR, no part of an AR falls into the government's definition of a receiver. And that was a juicy morsel from what, I forget where that started coming around a couple of years ago, right? And it just barely got off the ground. And then some fucking news story came around and everybody dropped that because it wasn't hot potato and went to the hot potato. And then we never hardly ever go back and pick up stuff off the floor. So that got just left somewhere. But yeah, I think you can remember what I'm talking about there.
Was that after Vegas that got brought up? That
Maybe right before Vegas, maybe.
Yes, I think
it was right around that time, I think.
Because that's the kind of thing that'll come and just delete everything. But it was really the Hearing Protection Act and reciprocity that was getting the big news then. I don't remember what I'm talking about being like competing with other pro-gun news. I think it was just kind of on its own out of nowhere, but it never had a chance to really rise because other bullshit came along and distracted everybody.
Well, I thought because of Vegas and with some of the things they were proposing, that's why it had become a topic about the receivers for ARs.
Well, you know what I mean? Like not right away, but like maybe after. It could have been. It could have definitely been. I'm not really. I'm vaguely remembering it and not really placing where it came from. So yeah,
I'm gonna have to look into this more because just like
but I am curious where that one fell. Because yeah, we shouldn't leave that one fall. That one's a loose, what do they call it, a frayed string or whatever, or piece of yarn that we could pick at that could help pull stuff down in a really solid way, I think. A legitimate way. Like, hey, you've never been able to regulate this particular firearm. Your rules are whack. Let's get rid of whack rules. We got the wrong kind of, what's the word? Like the wrong kind of environment for that, though. We got a bunch of people in there that are pro big state making rules. You know, we got to wait till it's going to be easier. I don't say we have to wait, but there's going to be easier when we have politicians in who ain't trying to make more government. Where the hell did I drive today? Oh yeah, I went over and talked to that dude, right? And then I was out, so I had to do some other stuff. I took some stuff to the mail, and then I go to the store. Must have gone to the store or something. I think I went to the mailbox place, and then anyway, so I was driving around and I listened to NPR a little bit more than I would normally. And I don't know, I'm not going to get into every story, but NPR drives me nuts. And anybody that'll tell you that they aren't manipulative or one-sided, and what's scary is that one of their tactics is they're doing a pledge drive right now. It's their money-making thing is to get money off the government and then also ask everybody who listens to it to give them money. So they were playing, what do you call it? Like when somebody says something nice about you. Can't think of the word. When
compliment?
No, but what do you call that when it's like
a backhanded compliment?
No, on your resume or something. There's an official word for when somebody's giving you a whatever. But anyway,
like
so they had
Mr. or Mrs.
What?
Like Mr. or Mrs.
No. I'm just saying they had some recommendations or comments. I don't know what I'm trying. It's a common word, but anyway, they had these people on who were saying how great NPR was, and the one guy was like, "I like NPR because it's so non-biased and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "F, dude! Like the last three things I listened to were like some of the most biased, one-sided garbage I've listened to." You know, whatever. I don't like listening to Rush Limbaugh because the guy won't listen to the other side ever, and then I listen to y'all, and you're like even worse. Literally even worse because you're acting like you are listening to the other side. And then they bring this testimonial. That's what I was thinking of. They bring this guy in front of testimonial, like an audio testimonial. It's a radio show. And he's like, blah, blah, blah. NPR is so non-biased. It's a total thing. Like say you aren't what you are or whatever, right? Right? Or blame the other people for being what you are. But in this case, say you aren't exactly what you are. Anyway, or say you are exactly what you aren't, I guess is what I should say.
Guys, it's like 12:30 here. I'm gonna bail. Great
Yeah,
conversation.
thanks for jumping in. Yeah.
I'll catch up with
Skip
y'all
over.
tomorrow, maybe. Bye.
Well,
With that, I think we're going to end it because Dead Horse out here. You're welcome to jump in. There's a link right there. We'll keep going. Otherwise, I'm like say right in the middle of a project here. It's not super urgent, but I am right in the middle of it. However, I'm almost out of James Bond movies, so I don't even know what I'm going to listen to after this. I've been listening to those podcasts and things earlier today, and letting the rocket thing take up a lot of time. Kind of threading through all the other crap I was listening to, because most of the stuff I was listening to today was more like 15 minutes or less. It wasn't really anything really long, but I would basically be back and forth, and I would turn something on that was Pro 2A and listen to it as I'm kind of walking around, watching, doing this and then cleaning the stuff, and all the time leaving that Starship thing kind of bantering. It's pretty interesting. So I don't know. It also made me just think about how much stuff is going on that people are missing when they're so worried about the stupid back and forth politic crap, right? Like all the, oh, do you hear what so and so said about something? Or I'm gonna hold my breath until somebody says something about something, or what he tweeted about this guy. Man, we're missing all kinds of neat stuff that's just happening in the world of tech or civilization or whatever you want to call it, like the evolution of humanity.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'd much rather talk about science and stuff like that. And obviously, as it's been stated on here by me 100 times, I'm a tech illiterate, whatever you want to call it. And so just listening to you guys talk about tech, I'm sitting here quiet like a little kid on the edge of his seat, watching, a space shuttle launch. But I find it fascinating. Way better than the politics BS.
Oh yeah. It's relatively clean. It's more of a pure thing. It's not as dirty.
So
if you're running out of James Bond films, do you double back and hit number 6 and watch that George Lazenby film, the Her Majesty's Secret Service?
Nah, I never liked that one. I don't know what was going on with that, but first time I seen it, it rubbed me the wrong way, and I understand it. I think I remember watching it at one point and going, "Okay, I get it," but then, I know I don't think I've seen it 3 times.
Yeah, Telly Savalas is Blofeld, and yeah, Lazenby's one appearance. Thank God. It is hard to watch sometimes.
But here's the thing: when I was a little youngin', I would go on trips and stuff with various grandparents and just car trips. Like that was our family's way of going places. Every once in a while, we flew somewhere to go somewhere, but more often than not, we got in the car and drove places. And that means I'm in the back seat of the car being bored as shit because back in old days there ain't nothing, and you ain't got the radio when you're a little kid in the back seat, right? You ain't got nothing. So at some point, I learned how to read, I guess, and then I got James Bond books, and I don't know where I got them. Somehow I got all the James Bond books. I think I might have bought them. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But they're paperbacks, and I had all the James Bond books, so I had read them all, like the books, way before I ever seen a James Bond movie, and the books are awesome. Like they're all wild and crazy and spy books, I guess. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I read them. But anyway, so when I got into James Bond or whatever, I was, just tearing into it because I was born at the middle of, well, no, whenever I was started watching movies, at least, it had to be the middle of Roger Moore or something. So there was a ton of James Bond movies. And then VCRs existed by then, by the time I was paying attention to James Bond. So I could watch, a lot of them right away. And then we lived through, I don't know, half of them, I guess.
Yep.
So, so I'm all about them, but, man, I don't know what the hell I'm reading. Wheeled stuff here,
but I just can't stand. I can't hang with Scarecrow and Mrs. King, dude. Brosnan. He's way too smarmy for me. like his interpretation of the character is not bad, but you've read the books. I mean, everybody who has not read the books fails to recognize or acknowledge that he's a like retired Navy. He's retired. He's not like some young dude.
Wait, who are you talking about? Scarecrow.
The boss. Well, I would guess that was Bruce Boxleitner, I guess. Sorry. No, Pierce Brosnan, that guy.
Oh, yeah, Remington Steele.
That was it. Yep, another show I didn't watch.
Well, no, yeah. Who the hell watched Remington Steele, for crying out loud? And then they're going to take boring ass Remington Steele and make him James Bond. That was like a kick in the nuts to anybody who've ever seen Remington Steele or James Bond, right? Like, what the fuck? I mean, I don't mind them. They're not that bad, I guess, but they're better than Roger Moore. So it's got that going for him because he looks better. He looks more like James Bond than Roger Moore. Roger Moore looks like, I don't know what the hell Roger Moore looks like, but he doesn't look like James Bond, right? So I hear you. I don't like the new ones either. I don't like Sean Connery, period. I guess I don't really like it. But yeah, I don't know. I was trying to read Wield's thing here. She's saying reading the backstory and ARs. Some guy was smart enough to hire a good attorney. I don't know what that's about. Oh, you're saying about the whole thing about the, well, you can jump in here. You're saying the whole thing about the receivers and whatnot. And then you're saying here's the definition of a receiver, firearm, a part of a firearm which provides the housing for the hammer, bolt or breech lock, and a firing mechanism, and which is usually threaded at the forward position to receive a barrel. Oh, so you're saying they changed this already?
No. So since it doesn't fit the whole part because it doesn't have the barrel.
Right. I didn't know about this part that says usually threaded at the forward. So are they saying that it doesn't have to provide the barrel, but that's just a sometimes? So that's not a necessary part of the definition?
Yeah, read the second part now. That part.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The lower receiver does not have a bolt or breech lock and is not threaded. Okay, so
because they're in two halves.
Oh, no, yeah, I hear you. Because of the definition, doesn't matter about the barrel, because what it's saying is the definition says that it has to house the hammer, the bolt, the breech, and the firing mechanism, and then the part
so the bolt and the hammer are separated.
Well, and the part that's a receiver on an AR is only the part that holds the fire control. And that's it. All the rest are saying like the bolt and the other parts are in the upper, which is a separate part that is not the lower receiver. It's not serial numbered. So I guess what they're going to end up doing is either saying you got to match probably, or more than likely they're going to say you got to match, or with whatever draconian bullshit they're going to come up with, some crazy BS, not the way of doing it, right? Who knows what way they'll come up with, because they don't even know what the definition of nothing is. So they're not looking at this like, oh, okay, let's learn and then let's discover and then let's figure this out. They're going to look at it like a, instead of looking at it like a surgeon with a scalpel, they're going to look at this like a Gallagher with a big ass obscene mallet and just smash stuff.
No, they're probably going to say you probably need to go get all your uppers renumbered and have them registered.
Yeah, or matched or some shit. Yeah, or you need a separate firearm. But anyway, that's good, because if they don't come up with crazy dumbass ways to be stupid, then we sit around being lazy and not worrying about resisting dumbass stupid shit.
But if you go to that article, what's the funny part about the truth of guns? What he points out is a stupid CNN reporter. He's the one that fumbled across it all, and there's a link that actually gives the whole CNN where he actually defines it. So that's where it all came out of, and it's kind of funny that a non-gun guy,
that's cool. And more than likely he's an anti-gun.
Exactly, and he laid it right on the plate.
That's cool. Every once in a while, we blunder and lay something down in front of them that we shouldn't have even brought up ever, and that pays back some of that.
Hey, I didn't get to thank you in person. Not this is person, but The patches were great. Thanks for sending those.
Yeah,
A lot of work went into that. I mean, I know you're doing it with a machine, but I mean, they're really cool patches.
well, like you're talking about the Wolverines and stuff. Those are somewhere around halfway through there. The machine had been just being a bear, and then I just decided after this I got to do something. Otherwise, because I was really like, I got to go buy a new one. It was just breaking needles all the damn time, and I had all these little tricks I was doing to try to get it to stay where it was supposed to and stuff. And I ended up pulling the whole thing apart, and it was like literally one effing screw that had backed out and not held the like important part to this frame or whatever. So I was like, dang it, just tighten that one effing screw up, put it all back together, cleaned everything up and everything. There was also a bunch of threads and stuff all jammed into probably electronic eyes or whoever they were. But anyway, so anyway, it runs way better now. So
That's great.
it does
Because I
take some.
remember you were talking about
It was.
buying those heavy duty needles all over town every time you saw them in a Walmart.
Wow, they were hard to find. Yeah. They're just a little bit more than like grandma's going to use in her sewing machine, I think. But I don't know. Wait, no, you know what it is? It's the other way around. I use needles that are more thin than what grandma uses in her sewing machine because the ones in my sewing machine can go through like leather and stuff. Like they're pretty thick. They're like nails almost.
Right.
On this thing, if they're like nails, it ends up being a sloppier patch. You know, it's like using a thicker crayon or a fatter brush. Like it just doesn't.
Right. Because the thread's just going back and forth in tighter gyrations, I guess.
It's probably, yeah, it's not able to point between, I don't know. Yeah, it's just more precise or whatever.
A big needle would be kind of shattering the foundation.
It's probably just shooting the thread through the same hole half the time, where a smaller needle is popping a new hole more often.
Right.
It depends on, I don't know. You can't tell. I mean, I don't really look at stuff with a magnifying glass, but I bet you if I did, it would be, now that I'm thinking about it, it would probably be pretty interesting. It'd probably
But the square part that's held in the machine, that's got to be smaller too, right? Or is that the same size?
No, that's a standard. That's all the same size. It's just when you go to this, like I just go to Walmart. I don't go anywhere fancy because that's about the cheapest place to get them. You just buy their shank or whatever, the shaft of the needle part, and then the hole at the end, I think, is another number. So it's like a 2-number thing. So I think grandma uses like a 12 or a 14 probably so that it don't break every time she looks at it. Because the one I use, the 10s or something, like I say, if you poke at it wrong, it'll bend over. Like they're really thin. And I think a regular person you'd probably use them for like sewing lace or something like tiny, you know, you probably don't use them for regular sewing, I don't think.
Right.
But they're at Walmart, so they're not like uncommon tiny or something. They're
It's like denim, right? I mean,
anyway,
like if you're doing, you know, like a polo shirt, you probably could use that needle.
Well, in that machine, it can shove that needle through anything. It's more of my machine is a robot shoving it up and down. Grandma is just some old lady yanking on it with her hands. I think that's the difference. Like if I'm yanking something through my sewing machine, I can pull on it wrong and it'll bend the needle back and forth. You know what I mean? Like the robot doesn't ever do that. Like the robot moves and then the sewing machine goes up and down. Then it moves and then, you know what I mean? There's never, it's always moving itself. Like I'm never in that equation where the other machines we're always in the equation. The machine tries to shove stuff around for us, but most of the time we're yanking it through there or pushing it around or moving a corner or something. So that's where those needles are probably getting way more abuse. And they're like a sword, you know, they're not brittle. Like most needles, like I can't even tell you how many times I've yanked on needles and they'll go doing like a tuning fork or whatever. And you know, they go back to where they came from. Like they know what they're doing. They've been making needles for a long time. But no, I think every needle has the same top, like the part that goes into the machine. And they're all the same length. So I'm pretty sure all the machines at this point, at least every machine I've ever dealt with, has the same needle. And that's like different. All the 3 different types of machines I had were not even just sewing machines. They were other things. All used the same needles.
Sure.
Which would make it a lot easier. That's probably what 9mm people want. Like all guns to just be 9mm, 9mm shotguns, 9mm rifles, 9mm pistols, 9mm revolvers, 9mm derringers, 9mm black powder, 9mm bow and arrows.
Yeah, I've been on the 45.
Damn 1mm people.
They take like a bow and arrow and they knock the pointy part off and they just like tie on a 9mm bullet with some sinew.
Aren't bow and arrows, aren't they about 9mm anyway?
They actually are.
Yeah, I was thinking of that. It's been a while since I knocked up an arrow, but it seems like they're about that diameter.
That's probably where the 9mm comes from. It's like the diameter of some bird bone or something that the ancients used. And that was like, this is the ancient arrow of wimpiness or something. Like, let's keep this in diameter holy or sacred.
You forgot 9mm slingshot.
Oh,
Ooh,
snap. Yeah.
9mm BB gun.
Hey, G Webbs, have you ever shot 1,000 yards? Have you ever gone into long distance shooting?
I'm not a super big fan of it, but when well, the last time I shot was a while ago. We went to the range out here has 1,000 yards. We went and well, I guess it was 600, but I've shot 1,000. Yeah, we shot a match at 600 on the 1,000-yard range, but we weren't at the 1,000. But it's
Right.
not my favorite thing. I don't have the money to throw into something that makes it a little easier, glass basically. And I'm not, I don't reload and I don't hunt. Definitely, I don't hunt at 1,000. What the hell's 1,000 yards? Antelope or something? Like, I don't do that. So I'd never gotten into it. But I've been adjacent to it. I mean, I've seen it and I appreciate a gun if it's interesting or something, but I haven't done it too much.
Well, just, being in Arizona, I think you'd have a lot more opportunities than Georgia, for instance.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The times I've done it is when I used to go build AKs with my friend up in Flagstaff. He had 26 acres, and these were 26-acre homesteads or lots or whatever you call it. So everybody was 26 acres away from each other. That sounds like a lot, but when it was cinder cones. So cinder cones are kind of like nothing that grows is bigger than your knees, and the volcanoes had, what do you call it? Like eroded away a long time ago. So it's just these giant lumps in the desert, and the houses are distributed kind of around in between and on them. So some of them are kind of up a hill, and his was about halfway up a cinder cone. So you could kind of see around. And even though these things were 26 acres away from each other, you could see them all. Like they were not hidden by any kind of trees or anything. Sometimes people would grow a tree or two where they lived, but naturally there was just nothing. It wasn't grass. It was just sort of desert and these little things that were going to be tumbleweeds one day. But anyway, so out there, yeah, he just had basically giant tire rims and wheels and stuff out, like the rims off of wheels at different places. And I don't even want to think about how far we were shooting. He built bolt guns that were giant calibers wildcat calibers he either made or, liked. And he was some kind of truck mechanic. And he started out making these guns for people that lived out there where, you got to shoot a deer 2,600 miles away because you can't get any closer to it. There's no trees or nothing. But they also just like shooting far because they can, right? I guess. Anyway, so his guns were like shooting Cadillacs, and I couldn't even tell you what they are. I mean, there's some kind of custom gun, and he'd be super proud of it, and I'd be like, "All right, give me it." And I'd go take it out there, and I'd shoot at a tire thing a million miles away, and I'd hit it usually because what the hell? It's easy when you got a gun that's dialed in, and somebody gives it to you, and they just built it, right? So that was pretty fun, but I can't say I did nothing more than sit behind it and pull the trigger, right? I didn't really know what I was doing, but it was certainly neat. I could, if I lived there, I mean, I could definitely get into it, especially if you could reload it and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg.
There's a YouTube channel called High Plains Desert Shooter or something like that. It might be High Plains Shooter, but he's in New Mexico, and he shoots pistols at like 300 yards. He'll just go out the back of his truck and he'll say, "See that target over there in that clearing?" And he'll walk out 10 feet from his truck where the camera's getting him, and he'll just aim, and then he'll just shoot, and then you hear the metal like 30 seconds later, bang. It's pretty funny. And then he walks back and the video's over. But these are just normal pistols. He's
Yeah. You shoot pistols at
Mostly 250 yards, 300 yards, somewhat. It's pretty good for it. Just a standard CZ.
I did a video back in the day on how to do it. I wonder if I have it on YouTube anymore. We were out shooting up towards Phoenix with this guy that used to be on gun channels all the time, and he'd never heard of what we're talking about. But basically, you just index off the back of your gun instead of your sights. So you use your front sights, and you just hold on. You use your front sights, and then you index off a different part of your gun. Have you ever done that? And that's how you shoot a pistol at like any distance you want, really, but hundreds of yards or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you're still using your front sight, and you're only really dealing with left and right. Your elevation you deal with, or your distance, I guess, you deal with by just indexing off something besides your rear sight. Let's see, pistol. Maybe I should have put long range. I'm looking through my YouTube videos. I don't know if what I named the video is the problem. Imagine even if it's
So barbecue in Pennsylvania, what's the highest average distance that you'll scope up on a deer with?
Back when I was still hunting and everything, I consistently took 100-yard shots. There was, with where I sat, there's one time I had a 250-yard shot, but that was the furthest. Probably could have had some further shots, but 250 was the furthest shot I ever actually took. If you're hunting private land, then really the sky's the limit, because if you're hunting private land, chances are it's somebody's farm or something, and you got a good chance to be looking over a field. And like I said, 100-yard shot is nothing if you're looking over a farmer's field. Few hundred yards even is doable, but if you start getting into public lands, I would say 50, maybe 75 yards at best is going to be the max distance. The thing is about Pennsylvania, 2/3 of it's still covered in trees. So, very, very dense foliage. So, like I said, if it's public land, not going to have a very big range, 50 to 75 yards at best. And going back to what Wield was talking about, I've made a 100-yard shot with my buddy's Ruger Blackhawk. He had it sitting out when I went to his house the one day, and I was like, "Care if I take a shot?" He's like, "Have at it." I had done a trigger job to this years before, and I was like, "So what are you shooting at?" He's like, "See that car hood out there?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "See the black dot?" I was like, "Yep." He's like, "That's what we're shooting at." I was like, "Sounds good." So I pull up with it, shoot one-handed, and he's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." So I was like, "Let's go take a look." We go take a look, and I hit like half-inch right dead center of the dot that he made. He's like, "You gotta be freaking kidding me." I was like, "What?" He's like, "You outshot me with my own gun." I was like, "Sorry." He's there, doing it two-handed and everything, and I just took this one-handed chip shot, and it was a good time.
Sweet.
Yeah, nice shot. Had to be luck, though, right?
No, I always fancied myself pretty good with a handgun, at least as far as accuracy goes. If you're gonna get into tactical stuff like that, I'm gonna get my ass handed to me. But if we're just gonna, go for accuracy at range or anything, like I said, I always fancied myself a decent shot as it was, but I always felt I don't know,
Well, I just
a little
meant
more comfortable with a handgun.
the front post would be covering up the whole doorway.
What's that?
I meant at that distance, 100 yards, the front post would be covering up the whole front door of a house.
I don't remember, honestly. That's
Really depends on the front sights, because there's some really thin target sights that have thin blades, but then there's a lot of fat sights, like Glock and stuff, right? That's made to find fast, not to be accurate. So it really depends on the sights you have on that handgun.
Yeah,
that's why a lot of guys who hunt with Ruger Blackhawks and Red Hawks and stuff will file down their front sights and make them nice and thin. That's a real thing.
Yeah, I had a Browning that had a blade sight, and they call them a blade sight because it's thin as a blade, and and then the rear sight was only a millimeter wide by a millimeter deep. I got rid of it and had it milled for a Heine sight.
all right. So we got Dead Horse in the house now. Nice.
I'm just fighting with that technology stuff you guys were talking about a little while ago.
Kicking his ass or getting your ass kicked?
Getting my ass kicked. I feel like I've gone back to college just to put together a computer. Like just the amount of information I've got to take in just to get stuff to work together and figure out problems and figure ways around those problems, and then still run into more problems. And yeah, right now my last thing
you started with like the ideal parts, and you're putting it together from scratch, right? Like from all just parts, like not like a kit, like I'm buying this set of parts that somebody else figured out work together. You started with all parts.
Yep, I started with all new different parts, high-end stuff, and and of course checking on each website because they have what's called a QVL list, which is a qualified vendor list. Yeah. So the motherboard says you can only have this RAM is what works with our motherboard. But then you got to go to the CPU's website, whoever makes your CPU, and then look at their QBO list because they'll have different RAM that only works with that CPU. So then you got to find RAM that works with both the motherboard and the CPU, and like just stuff like that, and here I thought like, oh, okay, I got to find RAM that matches my CPU. So that's what I did. I bought it, and then it turns out it's not compatible with my motherboard.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, that's the thing. You got to deal with some of that, I guess. Which, whatever. That's either somebody needs to commute. It's either fun because it's a hobby and it gives you something to do, or it's just a pain, right? What was I going to say? I didn't want him to jump out of there. Hopefully, he clicked the wrong button or whatever. Jump back in. Yep, totally lost from train of thought right there.
Getting stuff to handshake when you're building a new machine.
I guess I was just going to say, but the other side of it is you got all the best parts, and you're going to have a flying machine when you're all done. That's the best part of it.
I should have two flying. Yeah, I should have two good machines because I'm building a second. Like right now, my first machine, I'm kind of stuck on that until my new RAM gets here. I swap that out. Like it works with the RAM that's in it. It's just not doing what it's supposed to do. My RAM's supposed to be 3200 megahertz, and I can't get it over 2133 because of the compatibility issue. So
What? Can't you use something like clock it with Cassandra and then figure out a way to overclock it?
I've tried which they call it the DOTC or DOCP, which is like XMP but for AMD. I've tried all the overclocking profiles and everything, and it's on my RAM's on. This is actually my second set of RAM because the first set I messed up on. The second set is on both vendors' lists, and it still doesn't work. So they said to swap it out one more time. If it doesn't work, I need to swap out my motherboard. So I might have gotten a bad motherboard.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm in the middle of building the second PC, which is kind of my redundancy backup for all my stuff. Because after my laptop got fried, and I lost like over 8 years of stuff, like PDFs and stuff, like I was like never again. So literally right now, I got my second computer right in front of me. I'm putting it together right now. And I'll tell you what, like I missed the whole computer thing going to school. I was in that like year or two right before they started having like computer lab classes in school and stuff, right? So I didn't like grow up like, learning computers in school or anything like that. I know how to surf the web and I know how to use the computers. I just don't know nothing about them. And so this was like, this was definitely a learning experience for me. I'll tell you what. I do feel better. I don't feel like near as inept about computers now. At least I know what the parts do and what they're called and stuff like that. So I've learned a lot, but it's still kicking my ass right now.
I only ever went to in computers in school. It was all like, here, use one or look at it and don't be scared. Like it's not really a robot. Don't worry about spilling champagne on it. It's not going to fall in love with you. That's all they ever like told us. But then I spent like a lot of years not giving a shit about computers at all. And then whenever I got back into working for a living, there was computers around or whatever, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But anyway, I learned all about computers by buying a bad one off of somebody who was sick of it because it wasn't fast enough to play whatever games I were playing. And then going, oh, this one is what I wanted. And then having a bunch of sarcastic assholes like laugh at me for not having a good one enough. So like I went to the opposite of actually school. I went to more like a bunch of jerk friends of mine who just like made you learn it all yourself and would just laugh at you every time you did something wrong, So like the opposite of getting like taught and nurtured. It was like, you better keep up and we're going to mock you until you get here. It was like, damn, I better learn quick and on my own, except it wasn't quite. I mean, I worked for Microsoft. So I guess we had Microsoft teaching us. But they all learned computers like in their garages from their, I don't know, wherever, but they all were like, knowledgeable and knew about shit. And they were not having, somebody come along and go, hey, what do you do now? What do you do now? Figure that shit out.
Yeah, I built a bunch of machines with my dad in the early 80s when he stepped away from an Osborne. That was a crazy thing. Suitcase computer. And then we built a Heathkit that was like an x86. And then my first solo build was an Apple IIc clone. It was like really, really cheap. And that's what I was all about. And then I built all kinds of machines for people. I was like trolling all the boards, the message boards for cheap parts and pieces. And I'd have these little like garage sales, I would call them, at work, where I'd just like sell people the parts and tell them to go pick out the fancy case that they wanted. And I'd build the machine for their kids or whatever for next to nothing. So yeah, troubleshooting bad motherboards. I hate going through all the traces, looking for cold solders and shit like that. My eyes won't do it anymore.
Right now, I think the biggest problem is because of the, for me at least, my biggest problem right now is getting a hold of customer service of different companies because of the Corona thing. Like all these computer companies, so many people are at home doing computers and new systems and stuff like that, that it overwhelms them, and they close down all their phone lines. So now it's literally email them, wait 2 days for a response, email them back, wait 2 more days for a response. Like that. That's the issue right now, and it's so hard to try and convey, at least for me, like what's going on and stuff. Just typing it in an email versus just talking to someone on a phone. And like I even asked him in the email, I was like, is there any way we can do like a video chat or something? I'll turn on a camera. I'll show you right now, like what's going on and stuff. And like, just like none of these companies or customer service is just really bad right now.
Now, are you having that experience with mostly domestic, or are you dealing with any international call centers?
Domestic, yeah, because like all these computer companies like ASUS, ASRock, Gigabyte, they're all they all have like American, I guess, customer service numbers, and it's all those numbers that actually, surprisingly, the company that I'm having problems with, the RAM named Corsair, they're the only people that actually answer the phone right now, and that'll actually, like, the guy will stay on the phone with me for an hour, like walking me through everything and stuff. Like Corsair customer service has been awesome, but ASUS, Gigabyte, ASRock, and a couple other companies have just been it's just like email tag. It's not even phone tag, it's email tag.
That's disgusting. Is Chain Tech still around?
Who?
Chain Tech?
I don't know.
Motherboard and vid card builder for a while in the 90s, I think.
I have no idea.
Right on.
I went with the ASUS simply because it had a feature on this it was like one of the newest style motherboards, so it's like not future proof, but I guess as future proof as I could get at the time, an X570 board. And I went with ASUS because it had a feature called LAN Guard, which is supposed to protect the computer from a voltage spike coming through the internet line. And that's how my old computer just burnt up. Is that we had a power surge go through the modem. It burnt up the modem and my computer.
Is that because you're listening to the Daily Gun Show podcast and we're so real that it sends a power surge through the internet? I'd have to apologize for that. We didn't realize.
It very well could have been. Not even joking. And come to find out, the reason why, like when the guy came out here to replace my modem, he checked all my lines and everything, and he's like, "Yeah, there's a like all the internet lines will have a ground and this special device that, it'll blow that before it goes to your modem, right?" And he's like, "So I have no idea how your modem blew up," and we knew the modem blew up because you could smell the burnt wiring inside of it, right?
Oh.
And so then he goes and looks, and the ground wire for that special piece outside that's supposed to blow up, it wasn't like actually tightened up to my electrical box. So the ground wasn't even like actually, grounded, and that's why it fried my whole system. So.
Well, did they do the install on that on your service?
Oh yeah, everything.
Well,
and not only that, but I had some internet problems and stuff, and they had already replaced the modem once before and stuff. So they had already been out to my house like 3 different times, checking all the lines, and every guy who had come out to my house had missed that ground not being actually taken to the box. So it wasn't even just the install. They had like 3 more chances to catch that, and still didn't.
That's lousy.
And I don't even care about the computer really. It was just I just had stuff on there, PDFs and pictures and all sorts of stuff that I'll never be able to get back. I am gonna send my hard drive for that laptop to a place that says that they might be able to data recover it, but it's like $79, and they don't. It's $79 just for them to attempt it, and then if they actually data recover it, it doubles in price, but they don't guarantee anything. So
When
Which
my
Oh,
is
dad-
a local place here.
oh,
Just a local place here.
that's pretty good. There's a place in Colorado that I've looked into for the forensic recoveries, and they're a hell of a lot more expensive. So
I thought $79 if they fell, or 160 or whatever if they succeed. I still thought that was expensive.
oh, but when you knock it up against your data there, that could be a bargain. I mean, I had a scrambled fat sector, and I lost 2,000 plus pages of original fiction. And it's just gone. I didn't make it. I wasn't printing out hard copies because I still had an older printer, and I didn't yet have a bubble jet, let alone something faster than that. So yeah, it's all gone. I still cry.
So when I lost my hard drive from 2019, I looked around, and software starts at $75 just to buy the software to do the recovery. And then there's multiple types of software, so some of it works better than others. I used a couple of free ones to they give you free samples to see if it'll work, and they let you recover a number of files, but not all of them, for free. So I tried a couple of them, and they have different interfaces. So it was sort of like, tested VHS and beta. They were similar, but not exactly the same. But once I figured out, what their extent was, what they could do or whatever, the main thing was the amount of time it took them to do the calculations. Like it takes them I had I don't remember, probably a 1 terabyte drive or a 2 terabyte drive. And it was taken, I forget now, but forever, like a half a day to calculate what was going on before it could give me a report. And then the report would tell me how many files it found or whatever. So anyway, once I determined that it was going to be a massive process of time, I put it on the shelf, and a friend of mine had the same problem, and he had bought software for whatever, let's say $100 or something. And then he gave me the software. So now I had the software for free, but it was, I had to run that scan or whatever they call it, like the initial scan to figure out what's going on. And that takes like 4 or 5 hours. And then I let that, because I had the software. Hiccups now. I had the software and I had the time. So I wanted to recover that stuff. What it recovered after all that time, it took 4 hours to discover how much it was going to do. And then I told it, go. But what it came up with, I couldn't let it run, because one problem is I would have had to have a whole nother drive to put the files on, right? Like all it does is find them and then it has to put them somewhere. You can't put them right where it found it, right? So it has to put them somewhere. So that was one of my problems. But I went to go look for, because it takes 4 hours to get this report, and it says, here's all the files we found. So I could take as many as I wanted, but like I said, I didn't have enough place to put them all. So I started to dig around to figure out which important ones, like the book I was writing. I was the same place as GJ. I had like written this 3 books at the time that were like in the process, and one was really far along. And I was like, well, I'm just going to go grab those folders real quick, right? Because this folder has the one file I need. And even if I don't have every picture I need associated with it, those I can get again. Like, just give me the damn format and the words, right? Like, give me the file. Anyway, I went in there to look after it did that scan and everything. Instead of being like, here's your stuff in this folder, and here's your stuff in this folder, it was like, here's your pictures, here's your movies, here's your sound files, here's your other stuff, here's your other stuff. And then it was just like file number 1, file number 2, file number 3, file number 4. So I could look through every fucking picture on my hard drive and find a picture I was looking for. But the only clue I had was they're in a pile called pictures, and it's like JPEG 1, JPEG 2, JPEG 3. So it did recover everything, but it's like it recovered everything and renamed it and just shoved it in a big pile. And I'm like, I don't know if that even helps me. Like, what the fuck? How much work is that? So that's where I left it. Even after all that, I was like, there's nothing I can do here. I'm in a stalemate. Like, I don't have a place to put it. Even if I had the time and place to put it, what the hell am I going to end up with? And then how much time is it going to take to find stuff in there? And it's easier to just go on with life and just take a lump and go, okay, I lost 2019, because that's pretty much what I did. So I'm like, I just don't have 2019 in my life anymore. Like it didn't happen because it all got corrupted. Anyway, so $179. If they could give me my hard drive for $179, I would definitely jump on that. If they could give me back like a copy of what my hard drive looked like in the right folders and everything, fuck yeah, that's worth $179.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely gonna try. Like even if it's not in the right folders, I think I'd be okay with that eventually sifting through it because really it's just some PDF file.
It was easy $100 just for the software, and then, like I say, 4 hours or 5 hours to run the scan on that size drive. So if they're aware of what they're doing and can make it faster, but then also aware of what they're doing, so they can solve you having to discover all that crap on top of all the other shit you're doing. If you got the money, I would say throw the $179 at them. Plus, you're helping somebody local who's sounds like they'd do a decent job. Because think of all the old ladies who wouldn't be able to do anything like what we're doing. You know, they depend on people like that.
I'm hoping they get it back. We'll see. If not, then I have to. The sad part is there's I have PDFs on there from like gun forums that aren't even around anymore. Just forum posts and articles and just spreadsheets and stuff like that just they're not even on the internet. Like I can do a Google search and try and find it, but I think that's like some of those forums are just completely gone. So it's just that's what's the really sad part. And then the pictures, of course, too. But some of those PDFs are just, to me, were priceless. Like some of the information in those.
No doubt.
I think I'm kind of done with laptops too. I think the phones have gotten so good nowadays that I don't think I need like a mobile laptop type thing, or at least if I do get another laptop, I'm not gonna worry about how good of a one I get.
That's a good thing. After you've been talking about this, right? That's been on my mind, and then I've been going to this surplus place and getting office supplies and crap, and they have a ton of cheap computers there, but they're almost all towers. Well, tower-ish type of things. I've been thinking about like just getting, maybe even talking to them and saying, "Hey, just make me something that barely runs. Like I don't need any kind of performance. I just need a case to put all these hard drives into, or maybe like a hard drive drawer or something that I can hot swap them out of there. But I just need something that I can keep my hard drives in for when I'm doing, basically grabbing stuff from my archives. And I barely need it to turn on. It's not going to run anything else other than these hard drives. And if I can get something like that from the surplus place for like under $100, I think that's cheaper than trying to buy a device to do that, because the devices start at $100.
The one person recommended a NOS system to me, which is basically like a little computer case full of hard drives, right?
Yeah, except it's $400 to buy the case, and then you shove your hard drives in.
Exactly. And I was like, for that price, I can build a second computer. Because that's what when I did the first one, I was like, okay, yeah, like, what am I really going to do for redundancy here? And if my computer breaks, that NOS thing doesn't go online. It doesn't do anything for me, but a second computer does. So that's why I'm building a cheaper second computer that's actually still pretty decent, but it's under $300. It's going to be modern, for under 300. So. It's not like the old days. Like, I guess they had, fires and stuff that would destroy books and paperwork and stuff like that back in the day. And that was kind of like the equivalent of, probably more the equivalent of, your computer going down or something happening to your computer today, but
yeah, or a flood, or a flood, or a theft or something. But yeah, things would take your papers away, and then you'd be in the same boat, have to start from
Yeah.
scratch. Except that they probably were more used to like that kind of thing happening, where we're like, dang it, like if I would have done two things differently, this could never have happened to me. It's like we got to live with that. Where they were like, well, what's the odds of somebody would have copied every single paper they have and had it in two places? Like nobody did that, so you would have never
Yeah.
thought, oh, I should have done that.
I came away with a whole new outlook on computers after this, though. Just never again going to not have a redundancy for electronic stuff or files.
What are you doing with your monitors? Just one monitor?
What's that?
You just got one monitor, or you got two monitors?
I just got one monitor for this computer. This little computer, I'm planning on putting it behind my TV in the living room and plugging it into the TV in the living room, and also using it as a like an entertainment system to watch Netflix and Amazon Prime and stuff like that on. Because
I guess I mean your real computer. I guess your other computer.
what's that?
I guess I'm saying the main computer, like your main.
Oh, the main computer. I just got one monitor for that, and I can't. I don't know if I can do that two monitor thing. It actually took. It still take it weird looking at a 24-inch monitor versus a 15-inch monitor on the laptop. Like,
Oh yeah.
that's
Now that they've got these giant wide monitors, like I can understand having one, because this accomplishes the same thing and almost better, because you don't have to worry about moving. If people aren't used to two monitors, then like I kind of like two monitors because I'm used to looking over to the side or whatever. But if you just get one wide monitor, you got the equivalent of being able to look at two things at once, and that's what I think is the efficiency of having two monitors. Mainly it's just so you can have, you can multitask. So you can be doing something over here and then open up a folder and look for something you need, or have a chat going over here and not have to constantly go back and forth, just have it all open. Is what makes a computer way faster, I think.
Oh yeah. Multitasking, yeah. Like probably having two monitors would be way faster. And I'm not opposed to it, but just right now, that's just I'm not worried about. I'm just not worried about that at the moment, because I got to get this stuff kind of working first, working the way it's supposed to. Like it works, and it seems to work good. Like I did benchmark scores, and they were really high and stuff, but it's not working like it's supposed to. That RAM issue, and if I'm gonna pay, like that RAM was like $150 for those 4 sticks, right? Just for that RAM. So it's like if I buy something for $150, I don't care what it is. I want it to work the way, like, what it says it's going to do, right?
My first my first two stems of DDR2, 330 or something like that. Those things were like $200 a stick, man.
Oh yeah. Well, and RAM's super expensive right now. It's one of actually the RAM and graphics cards right now are super expensive. Like the same thing that's going on in the gun community with like scalpers selling ammo and primers and gunpowder and stuff. The exact same thing's happening in the computer world with graphics cards, where a $200 graphics card selling between $400 and $500. A $500 graphics card selling for $1,000 right now, and scalpers are buying them up. Like some brand new graphics cards just came out. They cost $1,000, and right now on eBay, some of them are selling for like $10,000, 10 times more than what they cost, just because there's no supply. So if you want the newest graphics card, like you're paying out the absolute nose for it right now. And that shocked me. I never even thought of that. I just thought like the whole scalping thing was really a gun thing. I'd never experienced that scalping thing for like any other item, like car parts or anything like that. I've never experienced the scalping issue except for gun stuff until I started building these computers, and I was like, holy crap! I did never even knew that was a thing.
All right, well, they're chatting pretty good out here now. So let's see. We got Knives a while ago was saying how his PC died, and Echo jumped in. Gunmetal is saying trying to extend the life of the PC with an old hard drive, or replacing the old hard drive with a solid state drive. It's always good. Yeah, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
I still put a hard drive in each one of these, an old-fashioned hard drive, just because they are cheap for backup, right? But then I have a solid-state drive for backup in them, and I have a hard drive for backup. And like one thing I heard is, or at least I read, is that like a solid-state drive, if you don't power it on, it can lose all of its data in as little as a year. But a hard drive can go like 5 to 10 years without being powered on and still have its data on. So it can be up to like 10 times longer data life without ever being powered on. So that's one thing. Those solid state drives have to be continually powered on, and that goes for the external ones. You know, like I have a 1 terabyte external hard drive, and even that I found out you need to plug it in once a year. And if you don't do that, you can lose all your data.
Metal is saying got a second monitor, one normal and one vertical. I haven't had a vertical one in a while, but back in the day, my mom or my dad, somebody had one, a Macintosh with a vertical monitor, and this was before there was monitors where you could move them like this was a dedicated up and down monitor, and for writing like stuff on a piece of paper, right? Like most of the stuff they did was spreadsheets, so they didn't never wanted a up and down monitor. They preferred a rectangle going sideways. But whatever, I forget who it was, but somebody had one they got one that went up and down, and that was amazing. It was so different. That's why I've never been satisfied with regular monitors, probably, is because of that effing monitor. As soon as I saw a regular piece of paper in front of me where it wasn't a squashed version, you know, tiny on a giant screen that goes wasting this bunch of screen the other way. Oh man, it was amazing. And I haven't had one since. So I maybe once or twice at work, like if there was one available, I'd grab it because I like them. So I guess I have used them a couple of times, but I never owned one. But yeah, I think that would be neat. Although, yeah, I don't know. I end up zooming in with giant wide monitor because it's so easy. But yeah, if I had enough room or something, I could see getting a up and down one for just reading normally. I don't know, maybe if you're younger, you wouldn't care, but I'm just so used to seeing a piece of paper or a magazine or a book, you know, that I look for an up and down vertical thing when I'm reading, which is weird because I can't for video.
And phones are that way too. So
That's what I was gonna say. I can't stand it on a phone, but that's weird.
well, one thing I was looking at is they have these ultra wide monitors now that you can basically just kind of split into two because they're so wide. Have you seen
That's what I've got. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. When you got one of those, you don't need two monitors anymore. It's actually better to have that than two monitors because you don't have to move back and forth, right? There's no gap in the middle. It's amazing. I'll never go back to a normal size monitor now that I've got. I think this one is 30. It's not huge, but it's wide. It's like an ultra wide, like you're saying. I'll never go back. It's like having two monitors. It's like everything in front of me is one monitor. It's great. It's like remember Flippy, how he'd have that $1 zillion monitor with a billion tabs open? It's like I got a $150 version of Flippy's monitor. And it was only $150 if I remember right. It might have been $200, but I think it was $150.
I paid $70 for mine on Amazon Warehouse because it was a return.
Oh, nice. I didn't know about that. That's a place or what?
Yeah, if you go to Amazon and like when you click on like the search bar to the left of it, you can choose where you want to search on Amazon at, like Amazon Books or electronics or whatever, they have a section called Amazon Warehouse, and that's all their returns. And I buy a lot of my reloading stuff off there, like dies and stuff. I've gotten some really good deals on dies. And more than 9 out of 10 times, everything I've bought off there has been absolutely brand new. It literally, someone bought it, they ordered the wrong thing, they sent it right back. They never used it. And so I don't know if I've lucked out or what, but it seems everything I've bought off there has still been brand new. Just someone returned it, so I got a discount on it.
Yeah, we used to do the software bundles, the duplication on the software bundles for Gateway computers, and they were in Sioux City, Iowa, which is only about an hour and a half north of me from Omaha. And they had the same thing. If you looked at their at the one little choice, like at the bottom of all the other ones, you could access the returns, and they would tell you, like if it had been booted up, but you know, if it had been used. And I only had one where they didn't go back and do appropriate testing, or just mislisted it, because somebody had already shunted everything over from their old machine to this one. So I was able to find out who the person was that had it from personal information they left on the computer they returned. And I'm like, dude, why don't I just pull a hard drive and ship it to you? So he was happy to have that back. But yeah, they were like 25-30% of new.
Yeah, I've had just really, really good luck buying on Amazon Warehouse.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. Especially since you mentioned the loading stuff. That's a great idea.
I just type in reloading in the search bar and change the search to Amazon Warehouse. And then pretty much anything related to reloading will pop up. And I get dies off there, powder measures, just all sorts of stuff. I got $150 set of dies. No joke. I even posted it on my Instagram for $4.97. $150 set of RCBS Matchmaster dies. And that's the only deal I've gotten like that, but I've gotten some other Matchmaster die sets that are $120, $130 sets for $30, $40, $50. So I do not complain about that at all. And if you watch an item, like I'll put an item in my cart that I'm watching, it'll be like maybe a $60 die set. I'll put it in my cart and I'll keep watching, and I'll get notifications. Oh, the price is lowered, the price is lowered, the price is lowered. And the next thing I know, that price is the price I'm willing to pay. You know? And then I check out.
They don't tell you what the normal price is. It just is a bunch of stuff with prices when I'm looking at the warehouse, like deals or whatever.
Okay, so sometimes sometimes it won't show prices until you click on something, right? And then even then, when you click on it, it'll say like 1 used offer or 2 used offers. And if you click on the used offers, it'll tell you the condition of it, like used, like new, used, good, and it'll say like, oh, this is not going to come in the original packaging, or this will come in the original packaging, but it might be damaged. And usually the damage to the original packaging isn't that it's damaged, it's just that it's been opened. You know, like that's, so I always look at the condition. And like right now, I got $20 RCBS die sets on here on Amazon.
So when it says like 11 used offers, that means there's 11 of them.
Of the used offers, yeah, 11 of that item.
I've seen videos when I'll be looking at something like on YouTube or something that has anything to do with business. They'll try shoving get rich quick type of YouTube channels at you. And some of those channels will do stuff like, I went and bought, like $700 worth of stuff off of Amazon and sold it for $4,000. So I've watched some of that where they'll just get like a pallet, and I'm guessing it's whatever has been sitting around whatever warehouse this is for too long and nobody's bought it. They just put it all in a big pile and sell it bulk to somebody like that who buys it by the pound or something. And he'd be opening it or she'd be opening it, and it's like, oh, this has a package. Like, this one looks like no one even ever touched it. It looks like it's brand new. I'm just going to reprice it for wholesale or the full price. And then something else will be like, oh, this looks like it just was, like you said, like, this doesn't have its box. It's just a bowling ball sitting here. But yeah, there's just too much stuff. There's a lot of stuff. You click on, I went to Amazon, and then there's a bar that says today's deals, coupons, outlet, and Amazon warehouse is there. And then you're just in the warehouse and you can just look around. So I've just been looking around, but I don't really need to buy anything. So I haven't really. The stuff I end up buying off of Amazon is printer ink, like, I don't know if they might have that in here. I guess I could put it in.
I get a lot of
They do have it. I mean, it makes sense. Like, if I buy a printer and I'm going to be using it a lot, maybe I'll buy 2 or 3 extra things of toner, and then the printer craps out, and then I got 2 extra things of toner for a printer I don't use. So that would be kind of the same, right? Like, well, I'm going to return it to Amazon, and then they sell it as used, right?
One thing I like about Amazon is their subscriptions. Is that like for our dog food and cat food and like cat and dog treats, we're signed up for like subscriptions on Amazon where they just basically automatically send it every week or every month, depending on what it is. And on like, we compared the prices for what we normally pay for the exact same stuff at Walmart, and it's just much cheaper on Amazon to subscribe. When you don't subscribe, it's about the same price, but when you do the subscription, you end up saving a couple bucks per item. So we've gone to the subscription stuff for all of our pet food and stuff like that.
Oh shit! Okay, I bought this printer, right? And it's pretty nice. It's a Xerox. I've never owned a Xerox before, and it's pretty tight. It's a color laser, so it's basically a red laser and a blue laser, a yellow laser, and a black laser all in the same. And who keeps rubbing their microphone against some robot's penis? Every time you run a piece of paper through there, it goes through like 4 laser cut printers, right? So there's 4 laser printers that can break in there. But the way that, and I've already broke one, the blue one died or whatever, I had like a line in it. But all I had to do is go to the side of it, open it up, and swap a new thing in there, like a tube. It cost something like $100 or something, like from Xerox new. And I found one online for, I think I paid $30, and I ended up getting 2 of them for $30. So like super cheap. Shoved the new tube in there, blue again, right? The only bad thing about this effing printer is that it's designed to be like in an office. So it's got like an ability to put other paper trays under it. Like, it could be taller, like a Legos, like it'll stack other shit underneath of it. And then you could have like green paper in one or blue paper in one. I don't know what you do with it, but you have different kind of paper and different trays under it. And I don't really care one way or the other. It's like its only accessory except for Wi-Fi. Like, it's the only thing you can plug into this printer. It's just that by default, half the effing time I go to print a label, it tries to suck out of a printer tray that doesn't exist because of some default I can't find, right? And the tray costs more than the effing printer. Like, so it's not like, oh, I'm just gonna go grab a tray for $5 and shove it in there and make the printer shut up, right? So anyway, those things are $200-something. If I'm reading this right, there's one on that Amazon warehouse for $102. So that's half price for a weird thing that, like, what's the odds of somebody bought this printer and then was like, oh, I don't want this $200 tray.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of neat right there. And I guess now, I didn't even realize, but there's a thick one and a thin one. So there must be, a high capacity tray and another one. So you'll end up getting a damn tray. Here's one for $69. Yeah, that's a whole printer. Anyway, I'm gonna keep an eye. Do the prices change? Like, will it always be $107? Or will it
it definitely changes. Sometimes they go up, So, like, let's say someone buys some of those that are new, right? Like, all of a sudden there's a rush, like 3 people, 4 people buy some new ones. Then Amazons are like, oh, these are selling, so the price goes up. But if no one's kind of buying them for a minute, that price will just keep plummeting. And like I said, I got a $150 die set for $4.90. So like, I mean, I've gotten some literally absolutely crazy deals that I have to screenshot my Amazon receipt to show people because they just don't believe me. There's this like, there's no way you got that die set for $4.
Well, yeah, I saw that stuff, and I just assumed you were lying or making some kind of joke or something.
Like, no, I mean, that's my secret to filling out my gun room.
So yeah, I'm just gonna keep watching this tray then, because like you say, then more than likely nobody else in the world. Well, I don't know. Maybe everybody else is having the same problem as me, and they're like, I'm gonna buy that fucking tray also, right? But if nobody buys that tray and it just sits there for 3 weeks, it'll go down to like $40 and then $20, right?
Yep, it just keeps plummeting. On average, I would say I see it drop like $1 a day or something. It's usually like maybe 60 cents to $1 a day. But then sometimes there's huge jumps where something that's $40 jumps to 20. And so that's why I just keep those items in my cart.
Like on eBay, if I'm watching an auction, I can include it in a watch list. Is there like a way to watch these used things?
You can add it to your wish list, but that isn't as good. I just add them to my cart. And then once you add something to your cart, there's a, let me see here. So you add it to your cart, and then I'm doing it right now just so I get it right. So then when it's in your cart, you can hit save for later. And that puts it right underneath your cart, and that's different from your wish list. If it's in your cart or the save for later function, you'll get a notification at the top of your cart every time you go to your cart that, oh, hey, this item decreased in price or this item went up in price, right? So it's always just add it to your cart, and once it's in your cart, then look at it and hit the save for later.
I would just like to say G-Web's called that a high capacity tray. I believe it's a standard capacity tray, and the center one is the freedom restricted capacity tray.
I don't believe that you need this much paper to talk about a deer. I love this. What size paper does it support? Answer, normal size paper.
I've actually gotten into kind of reading some of the Amazon like questions and reviews and stuff on a lot of stuff, and just like, I mean, some of the stuff is just like hilarious. Like it's actually better than like reading like, I guess, like the funnies in the paper, the comics.
Yeah, it's just that there's no consistency, right? It's like it'll just happen randomly or whatever.
One thing I don't like about the new computers is everything has this like RGB thing to it. So everything wants to glow like different colors. Like that's like, I guess having your computer light up is like a really huge thing now, right? So literally everything you buy in your computer now, fans, the motherboard, the graphics cards, even the memory and hard drives, everything lights up now, right?
Dude, I remember there was like a phase of that, and we were buying. This was at a time when we were putting together computers for people. So I have like a stack of fans still that are blue, and every once in a while I'll go. I would grab a fan for something, and I'd be like, "Damn it!" Because now there's a blue light in my computer out of nowhere.
My first aluminum case build, I named TK420, and everything was green, like the fans, the shielding, the shrink tube, lights. It had those. That's when those like those rod, they were kind of like neon tubes almost. Those things came out, and you just could plug them into the accesses, and I like painted everything. It was a cool project. Still around.
Now, is it like difficult, or are they all the same kind of blue? Or are they all this? Or is it like, okay,
Yeah,
I can find blue here, and I can find blue here, and I can find green here, but I can't get all blue?
All the same frequency of green. and I pretty much stuck to the same manufacturer, so it was solid.
What is it called? It's called something ARGB, which is addressable RGB, is what's popular now. So they'll turn any color you want, and even do all sorts of different weird patterns and strobing effects. It's like anything you can imagine to do with lights, they do now, right? And
Yeah,
so
the other night I just dug out this USB charging module thing, and while it's active, it pulses around each port. There are 4 of them, and then the base is clear, and it just kind of does like a slow fade in and out, like a lava lamp or something like that. Just kind of morphs around. I've fallen asleep watching it a couple of nights.
it's the addressable RGBs, and then your motherboards now come with software like Aurora Sync and Mystic Light that controls all that addressable stuff. And the one thing I like about it is if you get past all the superficial stuff like the strobing and all that, they actually have some neat settings for it, where one is your CPU usage will be green if it's like below 40%, your lights will be green. And then if your CPU usage is between 40 and 60%, all the lights turn yellow. And if you're over 60%, it'll turn red. And you can adjust that to whatever you want. That's just the base. And so that lets you know, like maybe a program is like really CPU intensive or something's running in the background. That'll kind of make you aware of it. Like, oh, hey, my computer's working really hard right now. I'm really not doing anything. Like, what's going on? So you can go figure that out. But you can also switch that from how hard it's working to the temperature of the computer. So it'll be green when it's cool, yellow when it gets warmer, and then red if it's running too hot. And that, I think, is actually useful. You know.
Yeah, that's choice. I'm learning all kinds of great stuff, Dead Horse. Thank you.
Now, I feel like I watched so many hours of Linus Tech Tips and Jay's 2 Cents and Gamers Nexus and just all these YouTube tech guys. I mean, I've watched probably like over 100 hours of just like video content on stuff, and then not to mention just all the, computer discords or forums or just, just internet websites that I've gone to read about stuff like that. It really feels like I'm in school right now. It feels like I'm back in college. That's exactly what it feels like. And then you hear these phrases like GPT and MDT and like stuff, and you're like, well, like, what does this mean? And then you got to go search up like, how do you convert your hard drive from MPT to GPT so you can put Windows on it, because Windows won't install on a hard drive that's MPT. It has to be GPT. And how do I convert that during Windows installation? And then I actually figured out that computers still actually have pretty much a DOS mode, which is the only kind of computer stuff I ever really knew about, is how to do DOS. And that's actually still kind of a thing in computers. I didn't even know that was still a thing, but apparently it is. Where you actually do like, forward / run disk 0 like commands and stuff. Like that's still a thing. I didn't even think that was a thing anymore.
Anyway, so I've been searching through here. There's definitely some interesting stuff, but it's tough. I don't like I'm not trying to acquire more stuff, so I want to just keep browsing through here without having something in mind. But I'll use it in the future when I've got like an item I actually.
Another thing is use like common spelling mistakes is another good way to get deals on Amazon Warehouse and eBay actually. But use common spelling mistakes like
oh yeah,
leave out an A or an E or an I, or add in an extra S or T or something, right? Like just whatever you think's common, like misspell stuff on purpose or word it, weirdly. And that I find a lot of good deals doing that.
Yeah, especially if you like hit up common consonants that are close to each other on the keyboard from people just misstroking.
Yep.
Yeah. That's genius, man. That's what I used to do on eBay a lot.
It definitely works.
So off computers and over to guns for a second. It's not very expensive, and I haven't done a heck of a lot to my Smith & Wesson M&P 45C. But is there an advantage to switching to a metal guide rod instead of the poly one?
No.
Longevity.
Okay.
Some people will say that the flex and the polymer is actually beneficial and more reliable. I don't know if that's actually been proven or not. Some people say that the polymer is self-lubricating. So, if you had a gun that's sitting forever, and then wanted to use it, it wouldn't be as, affected as much. But usually I like the metal ones because it puts more weight up front of the gun. Unless you're specifically going for a light gun, I like the extra weight, even though it might only be a half an ounce or an ounce or something. I like the extra weight in the front of the gun. It helps control muzzle rise. Every little bit kind of helps with that.
Right on. I'll order it up. Wait, so does Amazon have any? They don't have any, like, they just have scopes and whatnot. They don't have any like parts, do they?
Gun parts? You can find like simple Glock parts like back plates and stuff still, I think, on Amazon.
Okay.
There's some stuff like that. But, there's some simple AR stuff on there, maybe butt pads for stock, stuff like that. But it's very limited. They've cracked down on the gun stuff like that, surprisingly. But yet they sell, like, I don't know if you watch that Jörg Sprav from Germany, the guy who does all the awesome slingshot, like homemade slingshots and bow and arrows and stuff. But he's made all sorts of stuff just from buying stuff on Amazon that are pretty nasty. I highly recommend checking out that guy's channel if you've never seen it. The Jorg, like Jorg, then Sprav, Sprave, I think. Jorg Sprav. He has like 1 million followers on YouTube, so he's not like he's a small channel, but he's based out of Germany, and the guy's, man, he makes some awesome slingshots and bows and arrows and stuff like that, just out of homemade parts or just off stuff he buys off Amazon. Like, absolutely.
Is he like a big bald guy?
Yeah, yep, big bald guy. He was one of the ones that was like suing the YouTube over in Germany for the content creator thing, right? For messing with content creators. He's the kind of the one who spearheaded that whole thing. I don't know if you guys heard about that. And that's still like an ongoing battle. Like they're actually taking him to court because YouTube didn't meet their demands. But he's actually kind of fighting for the gun community. Kind of harder than what the gun community is, and he doesn't even really have any gun content on his channel. But he's fighting YouTube harder than what most of the than anything I've seen the gun industry or other gun channels do. Like he's and he's not even really a gun guy. He's a slingshot and bow and arrow guy. and he's really been taking the fight to YouTube big time, like enough to actually hire lawyers and just like actually taking them to court and creating GoFundMes for legal fees and stuff like that. Like he's really he's not backing down from YouTube at all.
Yeah, the only reason I actually remember him, remember years ago he had done a video and something went wrong with the slingshot and the projectile he was shooting come back and caught him in the head and busted him open. It was pretty bad.
Okay. That was fake. He did that as the
Oh,
joke.
was it really?
That was fake. Yeah. So the one where it came back and hit him in the head, that was like an April Fool's joke or whatever. So that was just that was a big joke. But what did happen is he was shooting drill bits, and a drill bit came back and really did like go into his hand, like through his hand, like that really happened. But the whole head thing that was part of a movie actually. He was like in a like a zombie movie. And so he fooled like while he was all dressed up in the blood makeup or something, like part of the movie scene, he had pictures taken and then just trolled everyone on YouTube, like, oh, look how dangerous this is. Like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. And then like it was just a big troll.
Yeah, it looked pretty nasty. I mean, they did a heck of a job with
that's all makeup. That guy's awesome though. Like I really enjoy that guy's channel. He's just really smart and creative on some of the crossbows and bows and arrows and stuff he's made, and it's kind of good to know how to make some improvisational weapons like that out of some basic stuff too. You know, it's probably a lot easier to make a crossbow or a bow and arrow than it is to, like, you know, try and make a completely homemade gun.
Well, did you ever see the guy? I think he might be down in Kentucky. I can't remember 100%, but supposedly he's made like well over 2,000 or 3,000 slingshots. It's supposed to have the world record for the number of slingshots that he's made. He's supposed to be the greatest slingshot in the world. And they were talking to him, and he said the reason he got so well was because when he was younger, he had to go hunting, but he wasn't allowed to have a gun or something, so all he had was a slingshot. And then trying to shoot a rabbit with a slingshot, he said you got real good real quick if you wanted to eat.
Yep.
But, you know, he's just like throwing pop cans in the air and he's shooting them like they're friggin' clay pigeons, you know, out of the air with a slingshot. I'm like, good God. You know, he's not even aiming. He's just going off of muscle memory, it seems. I was like, that is insane.
I have a feeling that a lot of us that had slingshots when we were kids got pretty good with them, but it's a perishable skill, and a guy like that stays with it, you know, is just gonna get pretty dang good. But just like shooting, a lot of that stuff's it really is a perishable skill if you don't stay up on it. Your skill levels definitely going to decrease.
Gee, do you still rock the wrist rocket?
I do. I have a wrist rocket. It's an old. My wrist rocket's probably 30 years old though. Like mine is from when I was a teenager. So, and it probably needs new bands on it. I never use it, but it's up in the closet. I never got my kids them either. For some reason, I never got my kids into the slingshots. I instantly just kind of graduated them from BB guns straight up to 22s and real guns.
Right. I always had to deal with the crappy like $1.50 slingshot with the glorified rubber bands and the
big red rubber band.
Yeah,
not that medical tubing stuff they use.
exactly.
Yeah, I remember those big fly. I had a couple of those, just a real simple wood post with the big wide red rubber band, the little leather strap.
Mm-hmm.
But those still worked. I mean, that's still a very viable, I think, survival tool. I mean, think of how light and easy it is to carry one of those on you.
Oh yeah.
That's something. Is a slingshot something like a? Is that do you guys think a slingshot is a viable, survival tool? I'm not talking about replacing a gun or a bow and arrow. I'm not talking about replacing any of those tools. But just is it still viable to have a slingshot in a kit?
Oh, why not? That's pretty damn low tech. It's distance weapon compared to a sharp stick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've always with the Atlatl too. The Atlatl.
Yeah, those are crazy. Boomerangs still evade me my skills too. I would try with those damn things. The Nerf ones, like the three, not a true boomerang, but it was like a triple rang or whatever. Those things were cool. I could get those to come back. I just hated chasing after the damn boomerangs. It wrecked me for frisbee too. I do a vertical instead of a horizontal launch with my frisbees, which is great when you're playing fall, but it's not good for playing catch. High speed incoming.
The Atlatl is the lever that you use to throw a spear. It's basically like a stick with like a spoon on the end, right? That you use to throw another spear with. But what's the one that's
you throw a big arrow, really?
Yeah. What's the one where it's just it's like a just a giant piece of string with a little leather patch in the middle of it that you put the stone in, and you swing it above your head. Then you let go of one end as you time it right.
It's just a sling.
A sling.
Yeah. Now, have you used? So I'm guessing you haven't used a sling then.
No.
So,
Nope, I have not.
I was over there working. So when you guys are talking, number one, a slingshot. Yeah, slingshot super useful. It's silent and it's completely useful for critters and food and that kind of things. Frogs and fish and squirrels and rabbits, raccoons. People, if they're bugging you, you can wing them. We don't stand there whether you're winging a slingshot at them, right? Not a wrist rocket. And ammunition's everywhere, literally everywhere. You're walking around, it's free. You don't have to carry around any ammunition. You got ammo. Anything can be made into slingshot ammo. Anything can be broken down or added to. You can be combined and created out of sand or snot or poop or something, or it can be broken down from bigger rocks. So slingshot is like definitely a useful item. And if you're not a master of it, then what the fuck? What's wrong with you? It's cheap and free, and they cost $7 or something. You should be a master of every single one. If you fucking make more noise, what the fuck? Is that you?
Sorry, that's me. I'm sorry.
But I'm saying, if you haven't bought every slingshot, then you're missing an opportunity. Go grab a channel that you like so much. Go to their Amazon, so you give them their Amazon cut, right? And then buy every fucking slingshot. It's going to cost you like $40 to buy all 4 models that they make, and then give one to somebody else, and give one to somebody else. But go shoot them all, figure out which ones work good and which ones don't, and then keep it, because it doesn't cost nothing to throw it somewhere. The only thing you can possibly do to a slingshot is cram it somewhere in such a way that the surgical tubing gets kinked on the edge of where it's like connected to, and it'll kind of pinch it and maybe break it even, or you'll have it sit somewhere so long that the stuff will dry rot. So buy a couple of extra rubbers for them and you're good to go. And just don't put those rubbers anywhere where they're going to get messed up, right? So that you've got basically more. That's the only thing you can have to like reload a slingshot. Just have more extra rubbers laying around. And then, that's one thing. But then since you brought up sling, you can make a sling. I've weaved my slings out of 550 cord. By just braiding and then making a bit of a, what do they call that? Crochet or whatever, just tying some knots in a different way so that it creates the pocket, and then some braid. And then anybody knows how to braid. Braid is braid. And tying knots, you don't have to do anything fancy. You just tie some knots in such a way that it creates a little pocket, and then braid again so that it's the same distance on both sides. But whenever I decided to get a hankering to learn how to shoot a sling, it took 2 hours. And once you shoot a sling for 2 hours, go out and take some rocks. Definitely anywhere you live, there's rocks. You can go grab a bunch of rocks. Go out there with a sling and make a sling. Don't buy it or nothing. Just go make one, or make 2 or 3, because it's just like a gun or something. They're all a little bit different. They're going to swing different. They're going to let go different. Watch a video or 2, and then you're going to forever know that all it takes is you can sit there for 15 minutes and make one, and you can do the same thing as you can with a slingshot. It's amazing. That's how we are humans, and we're not monkeys, is because somebody made a fucking sling, and it takes 2 hours to master the fucking thing. like from creating it to winging fucking birds out of trees. And once you've mastered that, you can go around just knowing you're better than other people because you can take like literally reeds out of the grass and knock a bird down and eat a bird dinner where everybody else is going to be like, what the fuck? How did you create a bird dinner out of grass? Right? Like, yeah, slings are amazing. Like, definitely go learn how to work a sling. It's like the simplest thing. Like, I don't think, except for winging a rock, except it's using what, fulcrum and what's the other one? Wheel. So it's using two simple machines to wing a rock. Oh yeah, three. Well, I think that's just motion, but yeah, it's using some mechanics and shit, to turn our brains into function. It's anyway. So it's definitely get a sling. Look, it even brought Gary in here.
I've always been interested in the sling ever since I saw a movie when I was a kid called Clan of the Cave Bear.
Oh,
And they used a sling in that, and ever since I saw that, I've just been fascinated by that. Like, man, that is just the neatest thing, just to basically take a piece of string and just be able to like shoot a rock like that,
Yeah. Well, bully for you for being able to sit through that thing. That the adaptation of that Jane Austen novel, that was painful. You remember something fire? It was the cave people running around, and they were trying to preserve this one little flame that they had, and they built this thing out of skins and sticks and
Chariots of Fire.
No, that was the track team. It is something fire. Not Stealing Fire. That's a Bruce Coburn album. God, Clan of the Cave Bear reminded me of it. I'm sorry.
It is in 2001 because that kind of thing is in 2001. Anyway, so Echo is saying, did anybody catch Liberty Doll? I watched a portion of her. I was watching the damn rocket launch, so I was watching a bunch of stuff, and I'm working over here, so I've been kind of jumping back and forth. I was down with Liberty Doll for a while. It bothers the hell out of me when she starts pimping or stupid, whatever they're called, affiliate links.
Mm-hmm.
Affiliate links are the weakest, lamest way to make money on the internet, and she's got so much more potential. It drives me nuts when she starts pimping them. So I probably turned it off somewhere around there, and then she was on for a while. So I remember going back because she was still going. And turning it back on for a while. And then she started talking about something else. And I was like, nope, I'm out of here. Like she was talking about prepping or something. And I'm like, just not interested in listening to somebody talk to me about prepping. So I quit listening. I'm fickle.
She started out strong. She had some good stuff. And, having another, female perspective and voice alone was interesting and not necessarily novel because the information was good, but then she moved or whatever. Then she moved or whatever. And I feel like now she does pimp those links and stuff, maybe to pay for moving or some shit. Cause she went fallow for a while.
Yeah, she doesn't work as a doctor anymore. Of course she needs to make money. She's like, she decided. Yeah. She was a doctor, whatever. So she decided to start doing YouTube. And then, of course, the world went crazy and everything else. And then she moved and stuff. So, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, that just is annoying to me. So I don't listen to it. But anyway, Tonight Show. I thought you were talking about Tonight Show started strong. Anyway, let's see. So we're watching it now. There was other things in here. Something about a wrist rocket, slingshot years ago, 60 caliber ball bearing. See, that my problem is I would get a ball bearings once in a while, either get them for free. If I got them for free, I knew what they were worth, and I was too cheap to shoot them. And if I paid for them, I was definitely too cheap to shoot them. So I probably still have like the 100 ball bearings I've ever had in my life because I'm never going to shoot a ball bearing. I'll pick up a rock and shoot it before I shoot a ball bearing. I realize ball bearings shoot better. I'm just like, there's something about me. I can't wing a ball bearing away from me. Like I'm going to keep a fucking ball bearing and wing a rock.
Now I've shot ball bearings for slingshots, but I don't think I've ever shot like a lead ball, like from a musket or something, like that heavy or dense.
Could you? I guess you could because you got a lot of lead, but I wouldn't be able to wing. I mean, I know I could, but I would just be way too. I would never want to wing that much lead. I would just keep the lead. But something I will wing that is definitely easy to shoot is marbles. I'll buy the shit out of marbles. And what I really liked is you go to a dollar store and you buy the weird looking marbles that they put on flowers and shit. They're like a squid marble. They look like a bean or something, except they're glass because they're random. Those are just fun to shoot. Like you shoot that, it's like a firework. You shoot that up and once in a while it'll come back and hit you because it doesn't fly straight. You know what I mean? Those are just kind of fun to shoot once in a while. But yeah, I've only maybe shot like 6 ball bearings. I just can't do it. No, and this is the other thing that I thought was interesting. This is what I was looking for. I had never heard of this before. Going to a scuba shop to get different colored tubing. I know that there was like, I forget the companies anymore, but the one company that was always just whatever naked color surgical tubing forever turned red. And I was like, oh shit, they made a color. And then I'm like, fuck, they picked red, the worst color ever, like the shittiest color that's ever existed. But that leads me to believe you might be able to get some blue tubing, and that would be pretty cool. Because yeah, back in the day, I would get it from the paramedics. I would just get, 6 feet of it or something because I would break it a lot. Because the stuff, I don't know if there's differences between surgical tubing or not, but it seems like either the stuff I got was wimpy or I would use it too much because I would rip it just from shooting it. Like it didn't have time to get abrasion. It would just fatigue from me shooting them so much. So I would go through it. I could go through 6 feet of surgical tubing in a month, I bet. Just chopping off 6 inches at a time and wearing it out.
How do you hook the surgical tubing to like the leather strap or whatever in the middle?
The best is just to slice and make like a kind of poke through and back on itself. If that makes, I don't know how to explain it. Basically, what they do at the factory, they just take a little. I would just emulate what they did. They just take a little slice, poke it through on itself, and pull the surgical tubing through. So it's the equivalent of a hitch. Surgical tubing. Well, and the other thing I was going to say is what I learned about it too is it's easy to pull the old one off. You just pull it off or cut it off or whatever. But when you go to put the new one on, you just suck the metal part, get a bunch of spit and slobber on there, and then you can shove the new surgical tubing on real easy.
What's going on, Gary?
Hey, not a whole lot. I just happened to be up late and I checked in and saw you were still on. I've been filming and editing video. I got done, put all my stuff away. It's like, yeah, there's still somebody alive. Good, because I'm not tired yet.
Did you really let those
I'm
guys
on vacation, so I've been staying up late.
So there's 2 things still with slingshots. So one would be something that I've never tried because it didn't really exist when I was a kid. Otherwise, I probably would have tried it. Is shooting bolts or arrows through them. Like what's his face? Dave Canterbury started doing that big time a couple of years ago, well, many years ago now. And I don't know if it was already a thing when he started doing it or not, but that was a whole thing, like adding that little brace or some shit to the front of your slingshot and then being able to just shoot regular arrows down it. That seems like an interesting take that I've just never bothered to bother with. And then the other thing would be, have you seen these things where I think it's just a little piece of plastic and you basically put a condom on there or something?
Oh, it's called a pocket shot or something. Yeah, it's a little round
and
circle.
then you can shoot a BB or something out of a condom, and that's more like shooting it out of what would that be, like a rubber cone, or what a condom looks like fucking.
Well, they actually made a whisker. They actually made a whisker biscuit for the front of those, so you can actually shoot arrows at them.
Out of that condom one, also.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I'd never done that. I mean, I don't know. I guess you either buy dry ass condoms or something, or I don't know what the hell you do, or some other thing that's like a condom or something. But anyway, I don't know. I guess that's also potentially survival thing if there's going to be a shit ton of condom playing around somewhere. Like, if you ever get stuck in a bathroom at a truck stop, you're good to go. You got ammo for one.
Have to have a pocket full of quarters.
2
Have you ever
quarters, back to back.
Have you ever shot dimes or quarters out of a wrist rocket?
No, do they just flutter?
I
I
haven't.
believe the cat answered.
What?
Oh, it's George.
Oh my God!
So you got to be careful because it is possible to be stupid about it, and they'll hit you in their hand, but they're random, like a stack of 3 or 4 dimes. You'll never see them again, but they'll decide to each go in a different direction. It's pretty fun. Quarters, pretty much the same. I'm trying to remember, I don't think we ever bothered with nickels, but every once in a while we would shoot like our pocket change. And
You ever played much with improvised blowguns? Like you get a piece of PVC tube about 6-8 foot long. You can make a pretty damn dangerous instrument with that too.
what now? Wait, what?
Get a small piece of PVC pipe and make a blowgun out of it, basically.
Oh, okay. You're talking more like conduit, not like giant drain or something, but like
Right. Small
Little
stuff.
half-inch PVC.
Well, when I was like the right age, whenever we were junior high, probably is when those air, or the things, the aluminum tubes with the black plastic on the outside, and then the mouthpiece thing became like a thing at gun shows. So I can't ever remember not having like 6 or 8 of those ones that were the size of darts, basically, and then you would buy like a baggie full of darts with the little triangle things and all that. So I'd never bothered making it out of PVC just because I've always had like 6 of those other kinds laying around.
I think those blowguns, though, I think that unless you're using a poison of some sort, I just don't know how effective they would be. Like, I know they can go pretty
they're
deep, but it's
useless.
basically just a needle, right? And like
They're completely useless. They don't kill anything. They just are not even.
unless you put poison on them, yeah.
Well, they will take out fish. Because my freshman year of college, there was an outdoor show, and all of us that mobbed over there picked one of those up for like $10, and a couple of bags of the dart things and the tips. And there was this guy who had feeder goldfish for his piranhas, and we just kind of decided one day that we were going to blow the darts down in until we speared a fish and then feed it to the piranhas that way. So you could take out a goldfish with one of those.
Okay, I was gonna say like maybe a tiny fish, but I don't even think of big fish because they would stick into critters, but they would never kill a critter. Like I've never killed a critter with, and I can't imagine the poison. Like how the hell would you get some kind of poison that could actually do something with just that? I don't know. I
They
think
do. I know they got the poison that really can take down even like a human with one of those, right?
Really?
Or like fugu.
That's the thing.
I'd be scared of shit just being around that kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what if you poke yourself, right? And my wife watches these crazy shows about finding Bigfoot and stuff like that. And they had, she was watching one where they were looking for like the Alaska monkey, which isn't like a Bigfoot. It's like some kind of Alaska creature. And these guys went out there with blow dart guns with poison on them, and that's what they were hunting like the Alaska monkey with, like this. And like the thing is like the Alaska monkey is supposed to like eat people and stuff, And they were out in Alaska hunting a monkey with blow dart guns, and I was just like,
when you think about it, right? There's a lot of stuff that can happen on the planet. There's nothing stopping a whale from swimming down somewhere where there's monkeys hanging around on the beach, and then taking a bunch of them monkeys in his mouth and swimming all the way to the North Pole and spitting them out. So then the monkeys are like, what the hell? And now they're living in Alaska or whatever. That could happen.
So one of the more dangerous things I ever made was a potato gun, but instead of it being made to shoot potatoes, I downscaled the PVC to shoot golf balls.
Oh yeah,
that gets terrifying.
We made a potato gun at work one day with 2-inch PVC pipe and using a nitrogen tank that was filled to like and I want to say it was something like 60,000 like kilopascals, and just a bunch of pressure, right? And it completely blew the gun apart because nitrogen's just really not the right thing to use.
Yeah.
I think with the potato gun, but it launched a potato like past the neighborhood. Like it was, it was gone.
That'd be incredible. All I ever used was hairspray.
Yeah.
I think you really need like some sort of regulator, unless you're just using like 100 psi of pressure from like a regular air compressor. If you're using anything more than that, you probably need a regulator.
You guys ever do the potato in the tailpipe thing?
I didn't personally do it, but I saw it done.
Yeah. Jam that some bitch in there and wait for the back pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Either choke out the engine or blow it out the back. It was great.
We always did the zip ties around the driveline thing.
Oh,
That's a fun
jeez.
one.
That was our big thing, or or on inside, on the inside, the zip tie on the inside of the rim. So as the tire was spinning, but then when they look at the tire, it looks all fine. Like that works too.
Y'all are a bunch of delinquents.
It's a good time. Your buddy starts up his truck. He thinks it's got a terrible knock all of a sudden. And say you can hours of fun just because then you get to sit there and egg them on. Man, I don't know. I hear it too, but what's going on? Oh man.
What are we building here?
Oh, this is the potato gun, right? I remember this video.
No, here we may come out of air, so I don't know if this
And
works.
how we assemble those parts. Now, there's lots of resources available for air cannons. You'll find lots of different design options available. The design that we've come up with here is just one that we've kind of developed over the years. And we always use air pressure as opposed to any kind of combustion. We find that it's a lot safer for the kids, but it also makes for a more self-sufficient unit, and it avoids any legal issues that we have where we live. Now, we're not lawyers, so we do recommend that you check any legal considerations where you live before putting together anything like this. Our design sort of developed from parts that we might have left over from job sites, but over the years as
So back in the day, yeah, like I would just take other parts and we did them with air, right? We would just take a chamber, you'll see here in a second. So we take the kid to the store and make him buy everything, and then buy everything literally. He like check out and everything. So and then made him put it all together. He was a little. He didn't remember most of it, I guess. But and then I think the dog helped him a little bit. But you put it all together and it takes less than $50, and you need an air compressor.
He's standing in the cart. Oh, he is. Yeah, he was standing in the cart scanning items. That was so adorable. Sorry.
$50 altogether, and all you need is an air compressor or a bike pump. And then, like Jedorf was saying, we just put had to buy two from Home Depot. At least you got to buy two gauges. You got to buy an actual gauge that can go to 60 or something pounds, and then you buy this contraption made out of brass that comes from the gas lines that only goes to like 3 pounds because it's for gas lines. So you end up having to buy a gauge and this little thingy that puts a different gauge on there, and then that gives you the the place to connect your air pump right here, and then gives you a valve to let you know on the unit how much pressure is in your like your compression chamber or whatever. And then we use a sprinkler valve and a 9-volt battery for the valve, and then that gives us a situation where this top one is 2 inches, the bottom one is a 2-inch chamber, it's all glued up. This is your valve. This top one is not glued together, so I can just leave it as a 2-inch thing if we want to deliver like a payload that's bigger than a golf ball, I guess, like a can size or something. And then we can take this out, put a reducer in there, and run like a smaller diameter or a barrel of a smaller diameter or something. And then you can pump that if with a 2-inch compression chamber like that, you can pump that thing up with an air compressor and get maybe 2 shots out of it, 3 shots, depending on what you're shooting. But we would do everything from shooting projectiles to just filling up the barrel side with water, fill this side up with air, and then stand on the backyard. And when somebody would come up to the front of the house, you'd shoot it, and it would compressed air would just come flying out of there and blow like, I don't know, what is that, 2 gallons of water up over the house, just come flying down. It wasn't quite rain. It was like if somebody threw a bucket of water at them. It came down in more of a pile than rain or whatever, but we do that kind of dumbass shit with these things too. It was, like a super soaker, except making the kids build it. And then we would fill the barrel side with Cheetos, like a bag of Cheetos will fit in there. And then you shoot that thing, and it's sort of like having a confetti cannon, except it's just a bunch of Cheetos. The puffy kinds.
I don't think I've ever seen someone shoot Cheetos before.
Well, that's why I like shooting out of air, because we could play around. We filled it with toilet paper, like a wad, and then put all kinds of stuff in there. We shoot the little dudes with the little arm, like they're a little bit bigger than an army guy, but they're the army guys, except they got a parachute made out of shitty plastic or something. Shoot them out of there. We made our own parachutes. We took like spice containers. Those are great projectiles for this cannon, or that style of cannon. Like a spice thing, like, pepper or paprika or whatever, like that size container. We always have a bunch of those laying around, and tie a parachute, just make a little parachute out of that. That was fun. We did this stuff back in like the early 2000s and the 90s, so there wasn't things like cameras. But nowadays, how cool would it be to like shoot a camera up into the air?
We did model rocketry in junior high, and that was the first time that Estes had a payload, a camera that you could shoot up. And it was like ridiculous expensive, but the school paid for one. I was more into like the scale missiles and stuff like that, like the V2 and the Exocet and that kind of deal. But especially after I got into
that era, they had one that was the egg one. It was the egg like delivery one, and it gave you like a place to put an egg in there. So we got that. Or we bought one of them, and then we would buy like one and then figure out how to make them ourselves, because we would lose them and not have the money to buy another one. But once you figured out what they were doing, you could just emulate it. Anyway, we would figure out that you could, I think the way it was designed was you'd shoot it up, and then the nose cone had the egg in it or something, but it was designed to go up and fall apart. And as soon as we figured that out, we're like, oh, okay, then we're going to use this to shove stuff up there, let the nose cone fall out, and we'll just make another nose cone. And then that's effectively throwing stuff up in the air. So we would just throw golf balls up there or whatever we could find, and then basically nothing would happen because we threw it up so high and never knew if it came down. I mean, what the hell? Like, you throw a golf ball at however high a model rocket goes, you never see the golf ball again. Right. But it doesn't come back. You see the rocket, it comes down, but you never see the golf ball again. And that was kind of fun, just knowing that we delivered a golf ball somewhere, the fuck way up there, and it came down somewhere.
I had the most complex one I had was a 3-stage, and it's in my basement. I still have all my model rockets and the launchers and control pads and all that shit. And I just with that ball, it was balsa and paper tube, so sanding sealer when you were done, and it was good to go. That was a lot of fun.
Now, it's interesting. I guess that doesn't seem like it, but that video is from 2011. So that kid is now 8 years older than that. So that means he's way older than he was. So I wonder if that stuff's still $50. I guess you don't have to buy it. I could go to Home Depot or something and see if all the little parts are what they would add up to.
I remember in 6th grade we did rocketry for science class, and a bunch of kids were like, "Can you fold my parachute?" And my parachute opened fine, but apparently nobody else's opened, and we just had rockets plummeting to the earth. The teacher got pissed off and was like, "Well, I guess people need to learn how to fold their own parachute then." Mine opened fine.
Well, it wasn't that hard, you know. I mean, you just pie-shaped triangle, and then fold, wrap in the string and
Yep.
put it in.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
I think what was happening was a lot of the kids weren't putting the wadding in well. So then when the engine would have the ejection for the parachute and everything, the parachutes were melting.
Oh, yeah, that would happen.
That's not on me. That's on them for not packing their wadding.
Mm-hmm. You remember the models that had not a parachute but just a streamer? The lighter, smaller ones, like the A-size engines or whatever. And then some of like the smallest one, at least when I was building them, it was called the Mosquito. It was a tri-fin about 4 inches tall. Took the smallest size engine and it had no, it just free fall back. Those were cool. 25 cents for an engine, $1 for a little model rocket.
That's what I should do. Just go find some model rockets and build them with the kids. There's a big field down here at the bottom of the trailer park that I could let them go flying off in. I just have to watch which way the wind's blowing.
I think they should make the opposite, like the size of lady fingers, where you do everything, but you can do it in your backyard. So like, you know, they go 6 feet in the air instead of 600 feet or whatever. So you can still have fun, just at a micro scale. I think that would be cool. They never did anything like that. I remember the little rockets, but people would put, like you're saying, 3 stages in them and make them go as high as a regular rocket, just like trying to shoot 410. Like, we're still doing the same thing. We're just using a narrow rocket. It's like, hell no, why don't we just do it 10 feet off the ground instead of 600?
The ones I always liked doing were the ones you'd take a 2-liter and fill them about halfway with water, fashion some wings to them and whatnot, make your own nose cone for it and all that good stuff, and then you just pump them up with air until you couldn't pump anymore, then pull a valve and let it go.
Yeah, there was something you could buy that did something where you would cram a bottle on there, any bottle at that opening, right? And then you pump on it a bunch of times and then step on it or something, let it go, and then you could put water in there or something. It like you half filled it with water and then a bunch of air or something like that. Because I remember it blew water out when you'd shoot it.
Is that pointed the right way?
Well, if you're an old man and you can't hold your phone horizontal.
Oh, for God's sake. Is that any better?
What does that say? Estes. Oh, that's an Estes rocket. Yeah.
Yeah.
I played with those when I was a kid. Yeah.
This is actually in my living room. It's the Columbia. It's when the Columbia launch kit came out. Yeah, this was my brother's, but this just has this is the older one, and this one had that flat cell battery. Oh shit! I still got an engine in here.
Yeah, I remember the engines were like A, B, C, D, right? They were like alphabet. Yeah. I remember.
Ooh, launch key. That was an important piece. The blast. Yeah.
Those little blasting cap things that you'd actually stick up in the engine, like those were the worst. That was like always the biggest problem with those kits, is that little piece you'd stick up in the engine would like hardly ever work. Like half of them were done.
Yeah, the fuse. Yeah. like a filament. And yeah, if you didn't spread them far enough, they drop out and go. Psst. And if you didn't get them in there right, they just, yeah, that was lousy. And those things were expensive too. Oh shit, this still has batteries in it.
We would dink with them before we ever went out there. So we would buy them and then enhance them before we went out there. But then we would most of the time just have wick. I would just buy wick at the gun show and chop it into, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches long. And it's not like you had to walk far away from a model rocket. It's not like they were going to hurt you or nothing. We'd stand there anyway. But for half the time, we didn't need to shoot it at any specific moment. You know, sometimes you did want to hit, you were doing something, you wanted to hit a button and have it go off relatively quick. But if we didn't care, we would just use wick, because that is basically not free, but, you know, as close to free as you can get, because those things were fragile. And we would put a bunch of match head shit on it and kind of glue it on there so that there was more stuff to ignite. And then at the same time, that would make it more difficult for the wire to just break how it would. I figured everybody did that. Like, I thought we got that tip from the store. We didn't come up with that.
No, we always bought those, the little.
Yeah, you get them in like 3 packs, 6 packs or something, and they're half the time they'd break taking them out of the fucking package.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's why it's like, I figured they just did that to fuck with you. So that's why I figured everybody just did. It's like tying your jigs at home. Like, you're not going to tie your jig on the boat. You're going to tie all that stuff at home and then just bring a bunch of jigs. I figured everybody staged their igniters at home. But anyway, we still didn't do it because it was not only cost something to buy the damn things, but then you had to prep them. So I didn't hardly ever use them, actually. After the first little while, if there was somebody else around, we would use them. Like if somebody's parents were there, we would use them, because they always seemed to freak out if we were just using wicks. But most of the time, it was just easier to shove a wick up there. I mean, they're basically made for it. It holds the wick perfect.
I've never, I don't think I've ever used a wick in one of those rocket engines. There's always those little electric igniter things that ran off of like that little control module with like 2, D batteries in it or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we always made our own things too. But that's the thing. Sometimes we were doing stuff like if we were trying to launch like a whole bunch at one time or in some sort of succession or whatever that would be, like, then we would have electronic igniters. And like I say, if you went somewhere, if you went to shoot with other people, whatever that's called, rocket with other people, then you'd have to, like, they wouldn't deal with people freaked out. But if you ever shoot them again, then just go to a gun show and buy some Cannon wick. It's the same size. And it works in all weather, it's wick.
That's probably going to be one of my next purchases. Actually, is one of those little desktop cannons. Play with.
You don't have a lathe or something, huh?
What's that?
You don't have a lathe or something to make one?
No, not a lathe yet. Not yet.
Yeah, they are fun. They're just expensive. There was a couple of places over the years that have had little cannons at a decent price, but I don't know, they burn out. They make them and sell them too cheap or something, and they don't seem to last. All right, well, we're now going on 4 hours. I got to end it. I don't have the luxury of just chatting all night. I don't mind doing a show every day. However, I can't do a show for 4 hours every day. It's half of a fucking work day, and I'm not independently wealthy or retired, so this actually took a massive chunk. I took 2 hours out of actually getting work done today. But I do enjoy chatting with everybody. We'll sign off here, and invite everybody back where we go live every single weeknight. We've been doing this for 1,200 shows, and we'll continue to do it. This is Gun Culture, the advanced conversation for people that are interested in not going through a revolving door of gun advocacy, but instead looking on getting in an escalator. And well, I mean not an escalator, but walking up the staircase. An escalator implies that you can just sit there and watch everything happen as you rise to the top. It's not that easy. You can get on an escalator down anytime you want, but we got to walk up the stairs. So for those that are interested in walking upstairs and not just walking around in a revolving door, this show will be here as an opportunity for that.